Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 220. It is warm here in Columbus, Ohio. It feels like summer. We're in the garage. I'm sweating. I don't know. You got a nice glisten on you there. Is that
glowing?
Yeah. You get a powder guy. But yeah, so thank you guys for joining us. I got Nate Hale all the way on stage right.
Hi.
Yeah. Next to him, Ryan Newman, a returning guest. Thank you very much. You're looking really sharp in your Royale Cigar Lounge. Is that softball? Softball jersey.
Yeah, catch us under the lights.
What?
I don't know.
They can't hear you from that far away.
Catch us under the lights?
Yes.
What? Just okay. Have you guys played yet?
Not yet.
Good. How's the record? Good.
Undefeated.
Nice. And then next to him is Spencer Lappin, who is a returning guest. This is your third time on the show?
Third time this month.
Spencer's a big supporter of the show and also a returning guest. Always a pleasure having you.
Appreciate it. Good to be here in the lovely garage. Beautiful weather here.
It is balmy. It's nice. It's very nice. I'm Steve Crane. I don't know if I said that or not, but it doesn't really matter. We are drinking tonight the Kentucky Owl. What's the official name of this?
Kentucky Owl 10-year batch 4 last rye.
Last rye, last batch. Last rye.
Shit. I have the
it's
picture.
a mouthful there. And we're smoking
last rye.
The last rye. We're smoking a special cigar from Eiroa Cigars that Ryan, you brought both of these, the bottle and the cigars, and this is the Pca.
Yeah.
See, and I put TAA. That's
Did
awkward.
you really?
Yeah.
No, it's the Pca release.
That's awkward.
I said it 4 times, maybe 5.
I wasn't listening to any of them, so we just won't put it up on the screen, and I'll change it afterwards. Anyways, PCA, which is the Premium Cigar Association. That's an organization in our industry for the cigars, and we'll get into a little bit about what this cigar is and a little bit about what maybe the PCA does. It used to be called the IPCPR. But before we get into that, I do want to thank all of our sponsors, you guys especially. You can support us on patreon.com/bourbonandbs podcast or Venmo @bourbonandbs if you want to buy us a bottle remotely. Just send that to us. Let us know what you want us to get, and we will do our best to find it. And we appreciate that monthly support from the Patreon members as well. If you guys want to do some swag from the podcast, Nate's got the red podcast shirt. I've got the black one, and then Spencer's got the BS Cigar Focus on the Silver Lining shirt as well.
The memo.
Catch us under the lights.
Didn't get the memo.
What's your record?
We're undefeated.
We're undefeated.
Hey, how was your record last year?
I didn't play last year, but so far this year we're 1-0. We run ruled them.
So you really are undefeated. Good. No, good for you.
Yes, we are. But yeah, buyjack.com/bourbonandbs. You can get any of the shirts that we're wearing minus the jersey that Ryan has on. That's a custom.
Well, we've got some more.
All right. Or you can buy it from him, I guess. Not really support the podcast, but all right. No, but we appreciate all the support. Buyjack.com/bourbonandbs. There's a lot of different stuff, including some actual 3/4 baseball shirts as well.
Those are sharp.
Yeah.
Really
Love
nice.
the way they turned out. A little warm for today, but also Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. We want to thank you guys for the continued support. Normally they do the featured cigar, but since Ryan brought this special PCA exclusive, we're doing that tonight. But the second cigar is from Altadis USA. It's the Trinidad Espiritu No. 2. We've featured that before on the podcast.
I think I smoked that.
Were you that with
Josh Bentley was here.
I'm pretty sure we did.
We might have done one of the other ones.
Was
Normally
another-
Josh is on when we feature the
Yeah.
new ones.
We featured that because it was brand new cigar on the market,
Yeah.
and Josh was the
Interesting.
guest on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But regardless, thank you Altadis and Josh and everyone there.
Josh is just tuning in.
Josh just tuning in. So thank you, Josh Bentley and Altadis USA. And also, like I said, Tinder Box in Columbus, Ohio, carrying that cigar, the Trinidad Espiritu No. 2. And also be a cigar company. The gold and silver are available. Tinder Box at Easton. The gold is available also at Royale
Yes.
in Columbus area as well on the other side of town. And you can contact either shop. I'd say Tinder Box would be easiest if you want the gold and
Still
silver.
the easiest.
Yeah,
If you're
absolutely.
on my side of town, we do have it, and they sell like crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, what else is going on? Anything? Nothing? Drinking, smoking? Spencer, what you been up to?
I just got back from Louisville actually here earlier today. Was there for a couple days, just there for fun. And
Nice. I like Louisville.
yeah, when I heard what bottle we were having on the podcast, I was definitely very excited.
Good.
But definitely picked up a couple down there that hopefully we can share on some different episodes. But
Nice.
what Ryan has brought will be a treat for us all tonight.
I would agree. I've already had a couple sips of it, and it is very nice.
Very nice.
Very nice. So let's get into that a little bit.
I don't have to pronounce the name, do I? The full name?
Kentucky.
No, I know the Kentucky Owl.
Is it-
but the last rye tenure?
It's not the pronunciation that you're worried about, is it?
No,
it's
it's,
the order.
the mouthful.
It's
yeah.
the order of the words.
Rye.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kentucky Owl. What is it? Batch
10-year
10-year batch 4.
batch for the last
Rye. Here we are. All right. So this is a bottle that none of us have had before this evening, correct?
Correct.
And this is still available, but
It's still available. It's very limited,
yes,
and they no longer have barrels of this available.
hence the last rye.
Yeah,
Right.
because they only restarted up operation not too long ago.
Mhm.
So one of the products they have is the Confiscated Bourbon, and that's an ode to when the founder of the company, Charles Dedman, his whiskey was all confiscated by federal agents at the beginning of Prohibition,
Okay.
and then it didn't. So Kentucky Owl didn't come back until the last 10 years. And started by his great-great-grandson, Dixon.
Okay. So in the family, I love those stories.
Yeah.
Love those stories.
5 years ago, they actually got purchased by Stoli Group USA.
Okay.
So Stoli Vodka, they own other vodka, gins,
Yeah.
and tequila wines, other brands, and stuff like that. But they bought them 5 years ago. Currently, all their stuff is aged and bottled at Bardstown Bourbon Distillery
Yeah.
in Bardstown. So there's a relationship there. And over the next 4 or 5 years, they are planning $150 million investment into a
Jeez.
bourbon park
A park,
in
Wow.
Bardstown.
like for recess.
Yeah, theme park.
Well, there's going to
Theme
be
park.
Theme park.
there's
Dog park.
there's going to be pyramids, so it's going to look like a Bass Pro Shop almost.
What?
You ever seen the pyramid bass? So
No.
there's
Have
a
you, Spencer?
Yes.
I'm waiting to see where he's going with this. Actually,
What kind of park are we dealing with
Yeah.
here?
well,
Swings?
they call it a bourbon park, but so right now all their stuff is housed and bottled at Bardstown
Okay.
Bourbon. Later this year, bottling and their warehouse will move to their own facility. The distillery is supposed to open or begin construction 2024, complete 2025, and then 2026 they're putting in hotel, concert hall, train.
A train.
Yeah, train station, like take you around the park.
Yeah, I got choo-choo.
Kind of like at like Cedar Point, a little train take you different.
Monorail.
Well, no, they have an
I
old.
feel like you're getting
school
stuck on the
train.
you're getting stuck on the
Stuck
details.
on the train.
Just really stuck
Let's
on the
move
details.
Do we have a
forward.
pamphlet yet? I mean, I want to.
You can actually watch the virtual video on their website.
Nice. I like it.
So are they a standalone? They're planning on being a standalone distillery where they make their own stuff and they
Yes.
bottle their own things versus having it
Yes.
at another distillery right now.
Yes. So the
Gotcha.
first part of their expansion is moving the bottling and the storing to their own facility this year, because currently all their stuff is bottled and stored at Bardstown, which is a newer distillery in Bardstown, Kentucky. They haven't been around all that
Right.
long, but everything there is brand new, state of the art. Looks very nice. It doesn't look like the old school rick houses that have been around for 50, 100 years.
Interesting. So why is this the last rye?
So they wanted to
What's
have
the deal?
they wanted to have a special release, and so they did a 10-year. But the popularity of Kentucky Owl products has grown so much over the last few years that there's just no more of that 10-year rye left.
Okay.
So it's still available in Ohio. Like you can go on OHLQ. There's some of their products are still available. Not a whole lot of quantity available.
Yeah.
And the biggest reason why their stuff is still available is typically because of the price. It's a higher price point, but they consider themselves a luxury whiskey brand.
I would say so with the price points that's coming in.
Yeah, the cheapest product that actually has this Kentucky Owl logo on it is going to come in Ohio at $125.
So,
Wow.
Ryan, how did you pick this one out of the choices that you have?
Well, I thought it was just the most unique. It's something that, I mean, I probably wouldn't enjoy myself unless I was in good company. So it just made sense to give this one a shot. We had another Kentucky Owl, and then we had
What's the other one you have?
that was the one that was the commemorative bottle for the burnt down Rick House.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if the mash bill is any different. And then a St. Patrick's Day edition, which again I don't
Green
know.
label, right?
The green label, yeah.
Yeah.
It was the 2021, no, it's the 2022, I think.
Yeah. that one's 125.
Yeah, it's still on par with the normal price, but it was a limited edition, and they collaborated with, I think, an Irish whiskey distiller.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't really looked up too much info on it, but yeah,
I don't know
that's
much
all.
about Kentucky Owl. I mean, obviously what you told us, Nate, but I really don't know much about it because you said it has been revitalized in the last decade or so, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's an old, obviously the story and the family goes way back, but as far as a current brand, it's newer and already part of a big company, if you will.
Yeah, they got bought out by Stoli, like I said, 5 years ago.
Right.
And so part of their plan, because of the bourbon boom that we're in right now, like they want to start, they want to produce more of the product.
It's 150 million, you said?
$150 million is the bourbon park.
Just the part.
Well, yeah,
And that's how much they're investing.
Don't
in
worry,
it.
I'm not getting back on
but
the
that's
park.
but that's going to
Okay.
have.
Fucking park. Just let it go.
Are dogs allowed?
You just want to take Tony on a whiskey tour.
Absolutely.
That'd
I
be
do.
sweet. That would be sweet.
For sure.
But no, so it's basically going to be like their own facility where you can go and do a tour.
Yeah.
But something that looks different than the rest of the bourbon tours out there.
So, do we know anything about the mash bill or anything like that on this?
What do you think, Spencer? What do you like?
I think you do.
So it's basically 112 proof for the most part, or
Yeah,
112.
112.8.
So what was the rye that we tried right before the podcast? The one that you had on
That was
before?
that broken barrel.
Okay.
That was a 95.5.
So
Nice,
I don't
yeah.
think that they might be similar, but I don't sense that this was as high rye as that. I don't get the same amount of rye as that.
You don't?
I personally don't, but
Yeesh.
that also might
But
be.
don't forget that one that you tasted before the podcast that we had last week. That's a 2-year rye. This is a 10-year.
So I think
rye.
this is a little bit more
that's
milder.
true.
So maybe that's what's playing a little games on me. But this is so smooth. Is it basically like 100% or something like that?
No, it's a 51.
Okay, so
51 rye.
51% rye.
that's
How
where I
much
was.
They don't disclose the rest of the mash bill,
Just
Really?
the rye.
just the rye content.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a high rye.
So it's
That's
it's just enough to legally be considered a rye.
Yeah.
Interesting because it
Yeah.
kind of reminds me of some of my more favorite ryes.
Such as
Like which ones?
Like the E.H. Taylor
E.H.
that I always
Taylor.
talk about, straight rye, and then just even like the Willet ryes. Those are some of mine. It does have some of those similarities, as far as it's not overwhelming like spice or minty or cinnamon. It's just got like that kind of a warmer spice.
It's got like the essence of it.
Yeah, it's good.
And even on a hot night like tonight, you could have this on a hot summer's night.
yeah, very oily, extremely oily, like that.
really oily,
And part of that is because it's a 10-year, and coming in at that 112 proof, it just absolutely coats your palate. And for me, for me, the spice is more of a ginger spice, but there's this sweetness
that.
there, like candied bacon type of sweetness, or
Candied
that
bacon.
like molasses type of sweetness.
So when you say that candy bacon is more like the brown sugar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That would have been easy too.
I like candy bacon though, man. It's
I
great.
All right.
It is like you said, Spencer. Yes, you can. I was showing Ryan. I don't know if you can see that online because I'm
Look
the
at
only one
that.
drinking out of a rocks glass. Currently, I've got a Glencairn for the next pour.
But it's just stuck
But
there.
can you see that?
It is
Nate, from there.
stuck.
You
there.
got it on there, but I mean,
Yeah, I can see from here.
I mean, it's just hanging on there.
Yeah.
That doesn't look safe.
That's
That's doing it right here. But that's that warm lingering all the way down because that's what's happening in your esophagus, I think, right now. It's just kind of hanging on.
Absolutely.
So you get it more in your throat than you do in your chest?
I get it both.
Yeah.
I get a little bit down, in the like sternum area. But
not,
yeah, it's
not
kinda
as
on the way
much
down.
Kentucky hug.
No, yeah. But full disclosure, I can taste everything. It's not a vid thing. Hang on. I went to the dentist. Yeah, I got nervous. I went to the dentist on Monday and had a cavity that was gonna be a problem, but it wasn't a problem. It hurts more now, but the right part of my tongue is still. I don't know if it's numb from the Novocaine still, or the fact that I was biting my tongue.
You were drinking a lot before we got here. Like it was...
I was not. No, but so I can still taste, but like the whole right part of my tongue is.
How's the left side taste?
The left side of your tongue.
Sharp. It
Okay.
means, yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah, left side's good.
See, for me,
That's nice for you to check on it.
Yeah, I'm just making sure it's all right.
For me, all the heat and spice
on the right
just stays right here.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Just
It hangs right there.
Yeah. Well, tell the listeners where that is.
The throat.
There it is.
So why do we think Kentucky Owl has exploded in popularity here?
That's
Because
a really good question.
yeah,
I think part of it's the history, the heritage of the name, but I think also a lot of people when they see a newer brand come out with something that's going to start out at $125, it's going to draw some questions, and so they'll be like, is that really worth it? Like, it's $125 for a bottle of whiskey that I may not have heard of.
but this
before.
bottle's not $125.
This one is not.
No.
No, in the state of Ohio, this is a $300 bottle.
All day long.
Yeah,
$300, huh?
Is there
and
any-
you can get it right up the street at the Kroger here.
You can also get inside the garage as well.
So it's interesting that you say this because when you are on some of, like, if you just Google some of these, right?
yeah, you're gonna see prices all over the map.
You are, but I mean, like, so the confiscated one you said is how much here in Ohio?
Oh, that was that one 200. I
Yeah,
think.
so I thought it was 205 or something like that. Something
So,
weird.
but
I can
then you got it here on a website, right, for $98. So it's the exact.
What?
It's. I'm not making this up. There's another one for $105. The St. Patty's Day, right? That's going to be $89 on this website.
Seriously?
Yeah.
But what's the shipping?
That I didn't look up. I just
Do they
find
charge
it.
you $60 or $70 for shipping like some companies?
I'm
do?
not even saying that, but it's
All right.
the opposite side of things where we look at some of the, say, Wellers or whatever that,
Right.
in the state of Ohio, you can get a bottle of Weller for $49, like, and then all of a sudden you pull it up on here, same,
105.
shopping, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
What were you pulling up there, Nate?
So so there are 7 Kentucky Owl products in Ohio. You got the confiscated straight bourbon, which is $125. The St. Patrick's Day limited edition is $125. The Kentucky Owl bourbon is $300. The straight
Wait,
rye-
what's that again?
the Kentucky Owl bourbon
Yeah.
is $300.
Yeah, it's 3,000 on this site.
Holy.
The Kentucky Owl straight rye is $130. Kentucky Owl rye 3 is $200. This bottle $300, and then the Kentucky Owl dry state is $1,000.
Yeah. Here's
That's MSRP in the state of Ohio.
yeah. So this one
What's
here
that one
pulls up
going
at
online for, though?
360. Which one?
The one that we're drinking currently.
So 360 is what I found.
Okay, so
I'm sure on the secondary market it probably goes for 5,
325 at
6,
another
something like
place here. So yeah, it's pretty much in line, if you will, like 3 to 350 or so.
that. Trying to think of another bottle besides like a Willett that's going to be $300 you can buy in a store in Ohio. But you can't buy the Willett for $300.
Well,
So-
some of the higher aged whistle pigs, right?
Yeah, I've got
the higher aged whistle pigs,
I've got a 15-year whistle pig.
which
like
is
the-
what?
like
I
the
think
Boss
those are-
Hog
I
or
think
something
those-
like that?
No,
No, that's
Boss
more.
Hog.
15 is oak.
Yeah, 15 is going to be like $230 in the state of Ohio.
That's that blue label, right?
Yeah, I got it as
Yeah.
a birthday present.
It's good. Yeah.
It's a nice present.
Yeah,
Who's it from?
my mother.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That was the one.
Victoria, thank you very much.
That was the one
It's
where
a
she
saint.
she'd
It's
bought
a saint.
like she had bought me some limited edition Crown Royal, and then she brought it up to you, and you're like, "Yeah, Nate'll drink it, but he's not much of a Crown Royal guy." And so
I said it nicer than that, but
you
yeah.
did. So she asked you for a list of what I like to drink, and somehow Whistle Pig ended up on that list.
You're welcome. Victoria, we make a good team. It did, like, that reminded me of it though, the $300 price tag on a 10-year rye. You know, I was thinking Whistle Pig because they're all ryes. This disclosing anything on like where the rye or any of the grains are coming from? Did you see that anywhere?
Not that I could find.
Because I know with Whistle Pig, it's all Canadian. Right? Yeah. So just interesting. I mean, to see something like this come in at $300 for a bottle retail on a 10-year.
It's aggressive.
A 10 years,
relatively unknown to the major market.
10 years still an impressive age statement. There's other 10.
Absolutely.
Well, especially for a rye as well.
Right.
Most rye, I mean, rye whiskeys like that Heresy from Broken Barrel last year. Like a lot of your rye whiskeys are, you know, going to be that 2 to 4 year mark, and that's fine for a rye. That grain just kind of that mash bill ages a little faster.
10-year rye, but
look what Willett's. Well, time out. Look what Willett's pumping out with their ryes, with their 10-year and up.
I'd be interested if anyone out there knows, or if you can look it up here, what the mash bill of the Willett rye is, though. Because again, this is interesting because it's only 51% rye.
They're higher ryes.
Yeah, I thought they were as well.
Yeah.
So that's the other interesting part about this is that it's 51% rye. Yeah, it's a 10-year bottle, 10-year barrel, excuse me. But I mean, I think it's aggressive. I think it's
Willett is 74% rye, 11% corn, 15% malted barley.
But for which bottle or which mash?
That's
bill?
the 4 year.
The 4 year.
That's
what about
their
their? Do
everyday.
they have any? Like, I know they have some obviously some age statements that are really up there, like a 23 year even.
But that could
That's not
still
theirs though.
But yeah,
A lot of that stuff
At that age, I was before,
in
right?
Japan,
after like 7 or 8
MGP?
years, it's not
Yeah.
their stuff.
Yeah,
really?
They just
Yeah.
started coming out with their own stuff.
they
Yeah,
were
long ago?
sourcing it.
Past handful of years, maybe.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people like their ryes over their bourbons in general
yeah.
because but now they're starting to pump out their own stuff.
But to my point though, that they have things that are in that 10-year age statement that are also,
It's the same,
300
it's
and
the same
up,
thing
right?
with these guys. Like they found some really good barrels and have decided, hey, this small batch is worth this amount of money and it can justify that cost, but it's just not their own stuff yet, which
Sure.
is most places don't do their own stuff, but they have the name now so that they have the money behind them. But hey, now we want to start pumping out our own stuff, keeping our own rick houses and control the process more.
Well, and especially since they got bought by a bigger conglomerate, there's definitely more bank backing them.
And there might be
Bigger
stuff in
checkbook.
here that's 11, 12, 13 years old too. It just has to be 10 years in general. I mean, it's a great bottle.
Yeah,
man.
I'm not saying anything about it. It's interesting to see it come out, at a $300 price
You're
point
right.
for that, and again, very, very good. And that's not just making it simple. I mean, this is a very nice bottle.
Absolutely.
This is something that I would have on like a bar shelf, not only because of price, but this would be something you put, in your bar that when you have people over, have you had this, or like a special occasion. It's not just something or be a great nightcap every
I
once in
agree.
a while. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. This
Not
is something I would
something-
end my night with though, with how oily it is and it's thick. It's real.
So
thick.
do you typically, we talked a little bit earlier, do you bourbon, but you like tequila as well?
Yes.
So
I think it might be a kick though. Like it might be just a thing. I really used to really like bourbon.
So-
I still do. But
Like
do you
Mexico.
think this goes well with cigars in general?
this one in particular,
Yes.
depending which cigar. If it
Okay.
was something, this is something that I would pair with something like this. I wouldn't go too light. If you go too light, I think you're going to start the flavors of this
Could
of the
overwhelm it.
bourbon will be very overwhelming, and I think you'll lose the cigar. Whereas if you get something with just a hair more strength, and I think this has a nice sweetness. I think this has a little bit
Some of the cigar.
The cigar, yeah. I think there's a decent spice to it.
I get it. I get some unique spices in the cigar.
So I think it pairs well with this because they're not necessarily battling each other. Now there is something to be said to do something that's completely counter opposite, right? Where there's different ways to pair things. You can do something that's very, very, very light, and then with your spirit, do something that's super heavy that to have the complete opposite effect. But I think this pairs well together as they really complement each other.
when you're going through the cigars, with bourbon, typically you try to start off with the lighter and then go to higher proof,
Sure.
so it doesn't kill your palate. Is it the same way with cigars in your mind?
That's the way I do it.
Okay.
But again, everybody's different. I think if I'm going to smoke multiple cigars, I'm going to start with the lightest as far as both flavor and nicotine content, strength overall. You know, you don't want to burn yourself out if you're going to smoke more than one cigar. I do it gradually over time. You know, if you smoke something like, you know, it has a lot of Lajero to it,
Could knock you out.
yeah, and it's, well, they're not necessarily knock you
It's
out.
just going to
right?
blow your palate.
Yeah,
out.
you're just going to, it's harder to kind of get those flavors and get that off of your palate as compared to something that's a little bit lighter. And there's ways to do it, right? For anything. I mean, there's ways that you can kind of cleanse your palate, but it's easiest if you start in that way.
Gotcha.
Just personal preference.
I think if we'd have done a stronger cigar with the way that this whiskey lingers on your palate, like if you were to drink this and then smoke something that was stronger or spicier than this, I think it'd be too much for the palate.
Yeah, with this bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you go too much pepper or spice on the cigar, it's too much.
But that's not because of the cigar. I think
too
it's
much.
I think it's because of that viscosity and oiliness of this bottle, how it just sits there. I think it'd be too much heat going on.
Little topper.
You want me to top it off there?
Little topper.
You got it there.
To the rim.
And pass it down.
Would you like some, Nate?
after.
I'll take that bottle.
Thank you. So has anyone here had any other
Very
Kentucky
cool.
Owl products? Have you tried anything else?
I have.
Okay. Which one did you have?
To be honest, I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I don't know. But so it was at the end of the night of a at a car event we had with either it was Jermaine Mercedes or Jermaine Range Rover. I think it was Mercedes. And the general manager over there took me over into his office. You know, he knows I like bourbon. And he brought out some Kentucky Owl. I want to say it was a higher age statement. He said it was a really special bottle. I don't know what it is.
Try this.
But no, it wasn't the green label. It wasn't the green label. I know that.
This isn't green.
And you mean yes,
So
it is.
It's definitely
Green away. It absolutely.
Greenish.
Okay.
I was thinking the St. Patty's.
So a while back ago, I did. It was on my way here. I stopped by the Kroger up the street, and I happened to see a bottle in the lock case, and it was a rye, and it wasn't all that expensive for being in the lock case. And it's like, let me try that, and it was absolutely fantastic bottle. I happened to pick up another one tonight. It wasn't until after I looked on the neck label that I saw it was actually a Kentucky Owl product, just
The
not
Wiseman.
the Wise Man Rye.
The Wiseman.
Yeah.
I've got
But
It
two of
says
those.
the Wiseman on there.
It does, yeah. It says the Wise Man's Rye.
Yeah.
But it's
The
a
other
square bottle, and it says
Yeah.
right here the Wiseman.
Yeah,
I've got two of those. I've got the green label and the blue label.
Blue label's the bourbon.
What's the green? The
Rye.
I thought he was saying
I've got both.
Wendy's or something.
Yep, I've got that.
Started eating Wendy's. Get a little
I have
hungry there.
So and it says it up here, Kentucky Owl.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that when I bought it because it's not on anywhere on the main label.
What did that bottle go for?
$50.
Yeah, it wasn't very expensive.
Yeah, we should feature that. Who do we have next week?
I didn't make the cut for that bottle.
No. I mean, we're gonna have it. I'm just saying it'd be nice to learn a little bit more about
Is that-
Kentucky Owl between now and then. Is that Tyler?
Is that
Anyways,
yeah, Tyler Jones.
yeah, we can feature that. I'm just saying that.
Okay.
I'm interested in this. I'm interested to where I didn't know you had that bottle. I wish we would have been able to get a little bit more on what they're doing with that $50 price point. We did have Che out there that said when I was asking, he was saying stuff about Willet, as far as the older stuff is sourced, they don't disclose. But when he said Kentucky Owl used to be a limited premium product, since Stoli took over, they have pumped out younger juice at a higher quantity and still asking a premium price.
Well,
Not saying it's good or bad.
It's a luxury
Right.
brand.
Yeah,
Luxury
just-
brand.
Yeah, so it's one of
Just
those.
a fact.
if you come out with a product that starts out at $125 and then all of a sudden in order to keep product coming, you're coming out with younger stuff, and all of a sudden you drop it to say 75, like that's like
marketing
you're now
too.
devaluing your own product. at
It's a
that
tough thing, which is what I was saying about the Wiseman that you have there. Is that it's interesting that they might be pumping out a new product, as far as get it in that everyday price point.
point.
I love this bottle. I'm a big fan. I like the viscosity, the flavor. Like when we were talking, like you guys gave me some looks when like the mash bill. I didn't think it was a high rye at all. But I get the flavors of it. I like that's
Is it
mild.
because it was too sweet?
I don't think it's too sweet. I think it's just mild all the way through. And after the first couple
I don't
sips
get that. I get some spice on the palate.
on the
100%
On
tongue,
the bottle,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely I do. I think it's why it goes well with this because it's not overwhelming, But I mean, I definitely get it. Like it's smooth is not a characteristic that I would describe as this. That's not a bad thing. I wouldn't say it's necessarily smooth though. I get a little bit of burn. I get the tightness in the chest.
Mm-hmm.
I get that spice on the palate. I think I wouldn't classify it as smooth, but I mean, again, your palate's different than mine.
No,
so what I pick up is completely different.
See, for me, that spice isn't that like really potent cinnamon. That's why I was saying like more that ginger food type spice.
I get it.
Not that super
Ginger
intense.
snaps. Drink it sick Christmas Day, man.
Oh no, just straight ginger. Ginger candy.
Gross.
Terrible candy.
I know.
Yeah.
I have a bag of it at home.
You were deprived.
For what?
as a child.
Just you
That's
just
right
suck
next
on
to
a
his
ginger.
Werther's.
If you eat
No,
that,
I'm out of
Werther's.
Werther's.
No, Werther's are great.
Well, if you make a friend with an old man, he'll probably have one nice warm one in his pocket.
And you can't beat those. You can't beat
Go
those.
find it.
Well,
Wait,
Reach in
let's
there.
get back to
that happened in the shop. No.
Wait, what?
What happened to you?
No, remember when I actually had some Werther's and gave you one?
That was my
And-
first
and
time
it-
at Werther's, I think.
And then, yeah, it was. And then Steve showed
Yeah.
up like one of the old commercials of the old man giving his grandson a Werther's and goes, "Hey, it's Nate and Ryan."
That's right.
It was a nice
And
moment.
It was a special moment. I remember that. Thank you for that.
Spencer, when you
Final thoughts? Final words?
a lot of regret.
Yeah.
There's a lot of regret.
No regrets.
Hang on, let's get back to this here. I think it's worth talking about. Is when you say smooth,
So
Spencer,
to also to be fair, so I've had a lot of bourbon here over the past couple of days.
down in Louisville, yeah,
down,
right.
down Louisville.
Law.
Yeah. But you guys had would you say the watershed was 140?
Yeah,
All right.
140.6.
So this is 112, but I don't think it drinks like 112.
Okay.
I think it can. You don't want to add water to this or anything like that. I think it's the right proof. But when I say smooth, I'm not necessarily talking about the flavors. I'm probably talking more about the mouthfeel and things like that. I definitely get
I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Approachability.
approachability.
Yeah.
And they've had some ryes on here that I would not want to drink on a night like tonight. It's just too hot, too much spice, things like that. This I feel like could be with a lot of varieties of cigars as well. And I think this cigar goes well with it. I think they both stand alone as well. I know you guys are going to get into cigars.
Yeah.
But what I try to do on this pod is also try to get Steve away from the price point, because once he hears the price point, he gets a little jaded on the product itself.
Yeah.
It's more.
Not really.
I like to equate why it's what is the call for that price tag. That's not. I like this bottle at any price. I
agree.
I will say that objectively, I think it's a very nice bottle. That's why I was asking about what you thought of, like when you said smooth, because I agree. When I said approachability, I think this bottle, it does 112. I mean, it's got a little bit of heat to it, but it's not hot. It's warm. That when you said smooth, and Ryan, you were saying, I was trying to decipher the conversation, because I think I agree with both of you, is that I get spice, but it's very approachable. It is enjoyable. It's not a heat. It's not like
It's not one
it's not
note.
a throat punch. It's not gonna burn your tongue. It's not really just you swallow it and you kind of really get a unwelcome Kentucky hug. It's warm. It's very.
I want to keep
approachable.
going back to
But
it.
there's a sense of balance between that warmth, the sweetness.
Yes. They
Like-
all go well really together. They all really go well together,
Yeah.
because I think it does have a little bit of warmth, like you said.
Yeah.
I think that's why I can't necessarily call it smooth, because
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit more warmth than what I typically drink on a daily. You know what I mean? And it's all
sure.
it's
And there's not a whole lot of sweetness from it, in my opinion.
I get a little bit, but not
Do you?
not a whole lot. Yeah, I'm with
Maybe
I'm
that
with
brown
Nate.
sugar,
Yeah, I
candied bacon.
I don't see. I don't. First off, I don't eat pork, so I don't.
Why don't you eat
Candied
pork?
turkey bacon?
I just don't eat pork. Yeah, I love turkey sausage.
It's a filthy animal.
Turkey sausage
It's
is
a filthy
amazing.
You
animal.
don't dig on swine. I got it. I've done
You
this
don't dig on
before.
swine.
I just don't eat.
Royale
How
cheese.
long have you not eaten pork?
This is going on, I think, a
3
couple
days.
years. No, a couple years. Couple years.
But you ate ham the other night when I was around you.
It was a ham. I don't know. I listen. Also, I
That
was
was the
drunk.
funny thing was.
Listen,
No, you were not when I got there.
by
He had a
7:30.
nice
I was
spread. We're
drunk.
going to talk about that.
Is he just eating ham?
No, it was a
No,
nice spread. We'll talk about it. But
It was a nice spread.
he said something about
I didn't
not
know what
eating.
it
I
was.
was like, what do you think that ham is? And he's like,
No, I didn't say ham.
Oh no!
I
You
said, "What do you think that is?"
And I
just
said,
went.
ham.
I just went for it.
It says
I had no clue
I'm
what
pretty
it was.
sure there's
I saw
pork
cheese.
product in ham.
I didn't realize it was ham.
Why
I
don't
saw
you
What do
cheese.
you what do you get on pizza?
Cheese?
Okay, just cheese.
No pepperoni.
No, I
I
understand.
mean, I'll get.
Why don't you eat pork?
Why
I don't
is this an issue for you?
I'm just curious.
So it started.
What if in that other 49% of this mash bill, there's a little bit of pork?
Are you getting ham flavor?
I mean, it's not going to kill me, and it's not like
It's not
a religious thing either. It was just more of a bunch of my buddies, like when we'd hang out, like they don't eat pork, and I used to eat pork a lot, and they explained the health benefits of not eating pork and it's substituting it with other meats.
It can't be good for you.
No, I mean it's not great for you, but not
Nothing like some good
yeah.
carnitas, man.
So I replaced it, and
Big
there we go.
Cuba.
It's just kind of stuck.
All right.
Got a relative that put themselves in the hospital for eating too much bacon working at Tim Hortons.
All right. has nothing to do with the fact that
Hold on,
that's
now
it's a pig product.
Okay,
You're eating,
that's a
when you say too much bacon, first of all,
how much
that's
bacon
for
can you get at
breakfast.
Tim
There's never too much
Hortons?
bacon.
You know, he was working there, and so they have to. They
No,
can,
I
only,
understand.
they can only keep it behind the counter for so long, and then they have to throw it out.
He didn't throw it out.
Yeah, he just ate it. So he was eating like 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds a day.
Well,
That's
Any meat.
Yeah, exactly.
This is
Any meat.
Not just bacon.
is this a close relative?
My wife's cousin.
All right.
And yeah, he put himself in the hospital.
Is he okay now?
Yeah, he's fine now.
Does he still eat pork?
He was going. He's going to end up in the hospital for another reason. I'm assuming.
It's amazing.
If he's not going to waste the bacon, he was probably eating a bunch of other shit that they're going to throw out.
Well, he probably also drinks a shit ton of pop.
I was gonna
and
say
smokes,
soda
And they throw away those donuts at the end of the day too. So you don't want those thrown away.
You can do those crawlers over there, man.
Yeah, are you sure? How do they equate it to just bacon?
Waste on
because of what?
God damn it,
specifically
cream
he came
filled
down
again.
with.
With it, so like
Too
its
much.
sodium levels through the roof.
love
or something?
Yeah.
I feel like we've derailed.
All right, tell me a little bit about the
Bring it
cigar.
back.
Well, I want to talk. The reason that we picked this cigar was being over at Royale on Monday. It's the first time I've been over there in too long. And last time was a Friday night. Is that right?
That's right.
Just a random Friday night when.
That's right.
So I've been over to Ryan's lounge a handful of times, literally a handful of times, and every time great experience. Twice now it was for the CLE, which is Christian Eiroa's company, CLE sales dinner. And that started about a year and a half ago, because it wasn't last year. It wasn't 2021. It was August of 2020, if I recall.
Correct.
And coming out of the initial part of the pandemic closing, there wasn't a national sales thing, but things were open. And so they started basically doing an American tour, regional tour, to try to get with vendors and get in front of them, talk about product, talk about, certain things, and really just have some FaceTime with them. And when they were doing that, I was talking with Nook, who's been on the podcast before. He's our regional sales rep for Eiroa CLE Asylum.
It's a shy guy, if I recall.
No.
Yeah.
But
He's a lot of fun.
we were talking about it, and I think it was actually before he had approached Ryan with it. Because he had stopped by our shop before. He's like, "What do you guys think? Is there any restaurants around here? Are there any restaurants around here that we can do an event like this where we have dinner, cigars, and everything?" And honestly, Brian Joyce, the owner of Tinder Box, and I
That's right.
said, the best spot that would be able to do this, the venue, would be Royale. So I would definitely approach Ryan and see if they would be willing to do it, knowing that Ryan is a huge fan of Eiroa products and CLE products and Asylum. And so they pulled it off flawlessly in August of 2020. So then come back around full circle. They were planning on doing it again, and Christian Eiroa comes up. This time he flew commercial, but he's also a pilot. So back in 2020,
I thought he flew.
That's why he hung out so late at your place, because he flew commercial.
That makes sense.
And they're going to Pittsburgh right after, the next day.
Sense.
So, but so we were hanging out at Royale Ryan's shop on Monday night. Another fantastic night. He's got.
Yeah, can we do a 30-second? What's the difference between a Tinder Box and a Royale and
a lot?
Ryan's?
Just so you've got Tinder Box, you can hang out, smoke. We get asked the question at Tinder Box at Easton, do you guys have a lounge? Well, you can smoke in the store. And I look at it as the big difference. I always compare it to churches, right? It's about the congregation. So like Tinder Box is all about the community. You sit down, there's about 14 chairs total. We're fortunate at Tinderbox to have Fido next door, the Irish pub, that you have this patio that is 8 months out of the year open to cigar smokers to do kind of what Ryan has over on the west side. But Royale is a lounge.
It is. We are a lounge, and that's, we do have our liquor license, which is a big difference. But I think the community part, the community aspect, is what everybody strives for, and I think that's why the Tinderbox Easton specifically, I think, is kind of like the for any shop, not just my shop, but any shop within Columbus. That's like everyone wants to be like that because the community is so strong,
Loyal.
It's very loyal. Very, very loyal.
Yeah.
And we have customers that are, in common, and we have customers that bounce around and go to other shops as well. But
yeah,
the strength and the just the quality of the community and the size of the community of the Tinderbox Easton is what every shop in Columbus, I don't care who you are, I don't care what you have, and I don't care what kind of lounge you are, that's what everybody strives for.
And 100%. On the flip side of that, you guys
came from there as well.
Yeah, that's I mean,
Tinderbox Easton is also a training,
it is. It's
for cigar community. I mean, Ryan's from there, and he's the GM of a successful lounge. Jake Sanders, who used to be a part of the podcast as well, he's the GM of Burn. He came from the Tinderbox family. There's been Tyler.
No, Dayton.
He was more from Dayton. He's part of the Bourbon and BS community, but he was
Justin
part
Richards.
of that. He was So Justin Richards was there. He was a rep, a shop owner at some point. Justin Hannes owns La Chavetta in town. Was a customer of the Tinderbox. Used to play poker there all the time. So
he's a poker guy.
He's a poker
big
guy.
time. Okay,
big time. But I mean, you have these things. Wade used to work there for years, and now he's a manager with Monte Cristo Lounge and everything.
Yeah,
there's been this stepping point, that somehow came from Tinderbox at Easton. But what I was going to say on the flip side of that, before we get into the cigar, that like if you guys are in the Columbus area, I'd encourage you guys to check out both Royale and Tinderbox at Easton.
Absolutely,
Royale is kind of one of those that Ryan's built up beyond what it was before he got there. That he was able to bring a more sense of the community, the business side of it, and trying to make it all balance out. But if anyone, like, again, that footprint that he has and the setup that he has, that would be something that's the epitome of what you kind of want. It's not too big.
Absolutely.
You don't want to
100%.
It's manageable. If it was, and not to speak negatives, if it was like the west side, it's not centrally located, so you're kind of isolated to one side, much like we are on the northeast side.
That's right.
But it's a more high traffic area because you go to Easton. We have customers that go to Easton just for Tinderbox. They don't even shop really anywhere else most days,
which is awesome.
But we also have a client base that is there because they're at Easton. Absolutely. You don't have that necessarily at a lounge. It's a destination. If you could transplant Royale Cigar Lounge and put it at Easton right around where we're at, first of all, it'd be expensive as shit to rent it, to do the lease or whatever. But if you could have done that at some point, it would have been, and Brian, the owner of Tinderbox, was looking at another space before the smoking ban, and it would have been maybe too big. But that footprint that Royale has would be just a giant success if it was doable in a high traffic area. On top of that, it wouldn't be big enough, in my opinion.
I agree.
So, go.
Just real quick regarding that.
We have a question from the audience. We don't have a mic out there since all four of them up here.
You guys get a liquor license and smoke in the same place. Usually it's like hard to do, right?
Do we want to talk about that?
I mean, we can.
Well, no, if it's no, I don't.
No, it's so. No,
state knows about it.
Yeah, state. Yeah, absolutely. State knows about it. It's not like it's a secret that we have our liquor license.
The question is that so in the state of Ohio, it's smoke-free workplace.
Correct.
And so the question was, how does Royale have a bar and a little bit of food as well as allow smoking in there?
So, I mean, honestly,
which a lot of states, it's more than welcome.
Yeah. So Amar, who was the guy that started everything, he had a really good relationship with Franklin Township. it was a little easier, from my understanding, to create that within Franklin Township because they had, I don't want to say different laws, but it was a little bit easier to pull off the smoking within the inside of the building. So with his connection with Franklin Township, he was on the board for I don't know how many years. I don't know if it's something that he still continues to do. I know he's real busy down in Miami, but with his connection, he was able to get the smoke-free workplace exemption as well as his liquor license. Now, that's the tricky part, right? People think selling cigars and having a bar is the hard part. No, that's not the case. It's actually being able to smoke inside, which is the smoke-free workplace exemption. Yeah. So, I mean, you can have a bar that sells cigars, right? And then have it on a patio, which could be very successful.
We've talked about that.
That could be very, very successful. But to be able to smoke inside, we're the only ones that you can do that within Central Ohio. I think there's maybe one more in
Ohio. There's a few up north that do a similar thing. It really is. And again, I noticed like on your menu, your food menu is, certain days you can order this, certain times, stuff like that. So, I mean, the biggest thing is the 80-20, 80% of your revenue needs to come from tobacco products. So, I mean, it's doable. So and it is harder than people imagine. I mean, to get a liquor license and then you have to really balance it out. Sure. So, I mean, I again, you creative pricing and do you have happy hours? Do you encourage people to buy, buy more cigars? I mean, that's managing that percentage, 80% and 20%. That takes action.
Yeah, the biggest key is to increase the tobacco sales and make that your number one priority is making it a cigar lounge.
Yeah.
Operating it as a cigar lounge.
You're not trying to be a bar.
We're not a bar. I mean, we are a cigar lounge that has a bar, and we have a great selection. But our priority is a cigar lounge, and if you operate it as such, and if you continue to increase the tobacco sales, and again, creative pricing is maybe here or there, but you keep it as long as you're driving up the tobacco sales, you're good. You can reach that 80-20.
I mean, really, yeah. I mean, you could do it if you thought it was worth the liquor license to just do like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's when you can drink, and Monday at noon, like the bar's closed. We don't have a bartender. You can't buy booze at that time. Really, I mean, whatever you want to do, but it's a constant monitoring thing. I'm not going to speak for Ryan, but on the flip side of that, like Jake and Indy, with Burn, I want to say like 20 to 30% is tobacco. Yeah, and the rest of it's a bar. I mean, it's a bar
like
that
Nikki Blaine's.
Cigars. Nikki Blaine's. A lot of the other places, they don't have to worry about that. And so, seriously, if you have the ventilation, good enough, and all of us roll in there, and I'm the only one smoking cigars, you guys don't mind that I'm smoking a cigar inside. Other people smoking a cigar because you don't smell it as much. Like they do a good job with that.
Right.
I could be the only one that buys a $15 cigar, and you guys are all buying $15 drinks. They don't have to worry about the 80-20 thing.
No.
That's different laws.
Yeah, different states, different laws. Yep.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. So again, being at your shop, at your lounge on Monday, we're fortunate once again to have Christian Eiroa, which is the owner of the company, and Tom Lazuka, who's his business partner, who is the more owner of Asylum.
Correct.
And then Nook, who's been on the podcast, who's the regional sales manager.
We haven't had him on for a while.
I'll tell you
we talked about it.
That was a great night. That with all those guys there, man. It's very, very rare that we get all three of those guys together.
Agreed.
They're all great, great individuals.
Yeah. And so awesome. This is something that, when Ryan and I were talking about, because he was scheduled to be on the podcast, and he had already offered a handful of different bottles. We picked this bottle that we're drinking tonight.
Correct.
And then he was asking, what do you want to smoke? And being in the presence of Christian, might as well do an Eiroa product. Well, Tinder Box at Easton, who normally does the featured cigar, carries Eiroa, CLE, Asylum. But then Ryan's like, do you want to do the PCA exclusive? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
why not?
You guys have mentioned, what is PCA?
PCA is the Premium Cigar Association. This is an organization that not only, and you guys chime in if you'd like, but not only is it an organization for things like this where they fund some of the lobbying going on and really fighting for the industry. That's the biggest function of them.
Right.
But they also have like the coming up in a couple months here is the PCA show. It's a trade show, right?
Is there
so they
something
organize
specific that makes it a PCA product. So
they team up with companies like Eiroa, CLE, and then they make this only available at the PCA show typically. So if you pay your dues and you go to the trade show once a year, a lot of companies, and Christian's done one of those things, is that if you go to the show, that you will be able to buy this product, this specific blend, whatever. They're doing that to get more attendance out there, or the connection and growing the brand. It's one of many, well, handful at this point, because at some point the industry, much like a lot of them, even before the pandemic, I mean, people just weren't traveling. They couldn't get out of their cigar shops. They just didn't want to travel. The big boys started offering deals for the trade show without even going to the trade show. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a team, because Christian and other, cigar manufacturers believe in some of the things the PCA do, which is lobby at a federal level for basically all the things that are saying that they want to mandate things in the cigars. Cigars,
are they
like
making
the FDA and stuff like that?
Have they made any progress one way or another over the past few years?
There's definitely been.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always bumps in the road. I mean, but I mean, they're probably the number one leader of the industry as far as, continue to lobby on a regular basis.
Right now, I would say the biggest hurdle that is being talked about with the premium cigar industry is the flavored cigars.
Yeah.
That's the one that the FDA is going after right now. Like, they want to ban menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars.
Like Black and Mild or something like that?
No, like all of
Yes.
Black and Milds, the entire acid brand.
Because those are more marketed towards younger kids and stuff like that?
So there, it's in a sense, much like the smoke-free workplace exemption that we have to do in the state of Ohio. It's a blanket lazy legislation where it's like, we're just going to go after flavored tobacco because it's targeted towards certain things, right? And it used to be kids, and now they have ramped it up based on certain races and everything else. I mean, it's gotten to that point where the push is that menthol cigarettes and things like Swishers and Philly Blunts and some of those things, that's the target. Much like the Tobacco Act of 2009 was the target towards cigarettes, and at that time, premium cigars, pipe tobacco, all that stuff, that was exempted from it. Well, in 2015, that came back around, and they went after everything. That got tabled a bit. It got delayed. It went through on the omnibus budget bill. Well, now in the United States, when the new administration came in last year, well, that came back to the forefront, and they were pushing for the FDA to go after the menthols and flavored tobacco. The PCA and some other organizations are really fighting to say premium cigars that are flavored
should be a different category.
Are different. And then so they try to come up with criteria based on weight of the cigars. They come up with, what the tobacco that's being used, all this stuff, trying to differentiate. It's like, you want to go after menthol cigarettes, that's one thing. If you're lumping in all this stuff, vapes really brought a big highlight or spotlight onto this again in 2015 because vapes weren't being regulated by the United States government. So then they're like, let's just do everything. Okay. Again, when I say lazy legislation, I'm not saying an insult. I'm saying it's like it's an easy way to do it. But more recently, they went after it, and it was a little bit of a. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole with it, but the statements from the people pushing for the FDA to regulate menthol cigarettes, flavored tobacco in scents, was very poignant to a lot of the narrative that was you were seeing a lot of. I mean, it was literally that menthol cigarettes and flavored tobacco was being targeted at, as far as like marketed to the lower class, the Black communities, and they even tied in the LGBTQ plus communities in there. That was the statements that were being made. So they went that direction with it, and chances are it probably won't go all the way through, including the premium
so
cigars.
this box theoretically could only get at the show, but
He
because
totally,
Theory.
okay,
he just breezed right through that.
okay,
You asked the question, I answered it.
no. So how many of these boxes do you guys have?
A good amount.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you're the only one in Columbus that has this particular
To
cigar.
my knowledge, but again, I don't want to give up any. If I did get hook up a Nook or anything like that, but to my knowledge, I am. But I think they're open to order now, and if I would.
So with
highly
this, yeah,
recommend
now
people getting them in
2022's out,
Yeah.
they're doing that exclusive. I talked to Tom about that. Yeah, 2022, you have to be at the show to get. If they have any of this left over, 2021 that is not spoken for, if you're certain accounts that are in with Eiroa, and yeah, you can get it.
You get it. But I would, if anybody that wants it in Columbus, I would say order, because whenever other shops carry certain product, it always spikes the sales of that brand as a whole. I think that's one of the reasons why the brand's so. I mean, the brand's big in Columbus.
It is.
Columbus is a really good market for the brand, because I think a lot of our shops, or a lot of the big shops within Columbus, we do really well with the brand. I mean, it's a great product. For me, for my shop in particular, it's actually price point on this cigar is perfect.
What is the price point on the cigar?
Right on the money. So this one's a little higher end, I think. But again, I have a little bit of a higher margin, but mine's about $20, $20 on the nose, and $20 for a cigar lounge is right in the sweet spot. If you go, or I'm sorry, for a cigar bar, even, because if you go to a cigar bar, people are just automatically going to assume that they're going to spend 20, 30, $40 on a cigar because because of the experience and where you're having it at, and this, that, and the third. Well, $20 it's affordable for a lot of people, especially if it's you're only planning on smoking for a couple hours.
Yeah,
but for the quality of the cigar.
Yeah,
though,
can you walk me through this? You were saying that it's a little unique flavor.
It's a unique makeup, right? It's a Honduran grown Cameroon wrapper. Mine's a little fragile right now, but it's a Honduran grown Cameroon wrapper. And then my guess, I don't know what the binders and fillers are. My guess, it's Honduran kind of through and through.
Yeah.
Because that's where Christian's farms are.
Correct. Now, he does use other tobacco, but
Yes.
primarily it's all Honduran as far as the binders and fillers. And
He grows
obviously-
a lot of tobacco as well.
He grows,
Yeah.
Bear
It's
certified.
Some of the best tobacco, I think, in the industry. The Honduran Corojo seed that he has is probably, in my opinion, it's the most unique. I can smoke, I think, just about any blend of his. If he's using Honduran Corojo or his Honduran Corojo in any blend, I can pick it up.
Yeah.
To me, it's so
I
distinguishable.
love
it's so
that
unique.
CLE Corojo.
Yeah, it's just I mean, yeah, all of the lines, CLE, Asylum, Eiroa, it's all that same tobacco, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just got such a unique flavor, and it's just different.
So the story is that they have some of the most pure Corojo seed tobacco from Cuba. So like you'll see that
Is that
stuff.
where I got low of the sweetness from?
Not necessarily.
Really.
No, when I say from Cuba, I'm not saying that this tobacco is from Cuba. I'm saying the seeds. So you'll hear that the Corojo from a certain year, the Criollo from a certain year. A lot of the seeds, when you hear Cuban seed, we'll get that question on the retail side of it. Is like, do you guys have anything that's Cuban seed? Yeah, most of it.
Yeah, just
Honestly, most of it. You have Connecticut seed, you have Cuban seed, but a lot of it's going to be originally transplanted over to these areas like Honduras. That's why, what is it? I'm drawing a blank. Corojo 99 or Criollo 98 or vice versa. Basically, the 1998, 1999, those seeds, those are supposed to be some of the best seeds that were brought over from Cuba. Now, they have, obviously, in the farming side of it, they continue to
Adapt and change.
They grow that. In 2000 or so, there was a big blue mold problem in Cuba.
Okay.
So depending on who you talk to, what you read, but there is this whole train of thought that in Cuba, they started doing a hybrid of the Corojo to make it more resilient. They bred it with another type of tobacco that was more resilient to the blue mold so that it wouldn't just destroy crops going forward. This Corojo that Christian has been utilizing through the farming side of it is some of the purest Corojo, according to Christian, that is out on the market. And it just happens to be in his Honduran farms.
Yes.
So that's where this is. The Cameroon is a region in Africa that, basically we've talked about that on the podcast before. The Cameroon, in that region, to do a Cameroon wrapper leaf is typically what they produce out of there.
Yep.
The Cameroon farms, that government will not allow anyone to come in and buy the farms. So these are Cameroon family-run farms for that. Now, from what you're saying, Yamasran, Cameroon, basically that Cameroon seed is being grown in
Honduras. Correct.
Yamastan region.
Correct.
So that's kind of where
No,
we're at.
that helped me
point.
understand when
Yeah.
he was saying that it was Cameroon, but it's grown in Honduras, but
Correct.
it comes from Cameroon originally.
Yes.
Gotcha.
I know there's another shop at the Tinder Box. It's Cameroon seed, but it's grown in Brazil. That's one. So I mean,
That-
most Cameroon is
yeah.
it's going to be grown in Cameroon, but they're starting to
And
experiment.
it's inexpensive too.
Yes,
Cameroon.
Cameroon is very expensive. It's also a very delicate wrapper. That's why
Mine's not.
Mine is.
Mine's not. Yeah, I saw that.
Look how
Yeah.
flaky. I mean, and
mine
again,
crack, but it's a very thin, delicate wrapper. When
Just
it's
kind
grown,
of rough with their stuff. You know what I mean?
when it's
I'm rough.
when it's grown in Cameroon, it's a very harsh growing season. It's a very short growing season as opposed to Nicaragua, Honduras, Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
So that's why typically that Cameroon wrapper is going to demand a higher price point for that. So that's why I think they're trying to experiment and grow that tobacco in other places in hopes that it can, have a better yield, not as harsh a climate to grow it in, and maybe save some money.
How
on
much of the
product.
flavor do you think you're getting from the wrapper versus from
That's
the
another-
binder or something like this?
Yeah.
I've never gotten a straight answer.
That's
from these
all
guys,
up to
ever,
personal
ever.
opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
And it
it's
depends on the size of the cigar.
What do you guys think? Answer the question, Ryan. What do you think? Percentage ballpark flavor you get from the wrapper?
that's tough to say.
Yeah, that's why I'm putting you on the spot.
That's really tough to say, and I'm not going to speculate on what percentage I'm getting from what, because I think it's probably true. You get the majority of the flavor from the wrapper, but as far as percentage, I think it's all kind of bullshit. Right?
Right,
I think it's really just something where if the blend is good as a whole, you know what I mean. It is what it is. I mean, you could have a blend with a great wrapper leaf. If you're not, if you're
It's
using
got shitty
if
filler
you're,
and binder.
if you're using junk tobacco for the filler and the binder, it's probably not going to smoke well, right? So it's just about having a good balanced blend overall, and it's really tough to say percentage wise where you're getting the flavor from, is whether it's the wrapper or the.
So what I'll say about this with Cameroon side of it is that, to my opinion is that a lot of times you see the Cameroon wrapper, you're looking at a lot of Dominican tobacco
Yes.
within it. What I like about this one is that the Cameroon wrapper, we talk about it a lot. You either like it or you don't. I mean, it's a yay or nay typically on Cameroon wrapper.
I'm a
If
yay.
you
I'm a
know.
yay.
I'm using a nay.
Really?
Right.
Yes.
So this is my point, though, is that
Yes.
I'd venture to guess that I'd be curious to see actual numbers, but the vast majority of Cameroon wrappers are utilized over Dominican tobacco.
Because
That's who's been using it.
Yep.
Fuente. Now,
Partagas.
Oliva's
Partagas,
Partagas, the general. Oliva utilizes some Nicaraguan tobacco. in
I'm
the
a
blend.
Nicaragua.
Like the
I
Oliva
love it,
G.
yeah.
But I'd say the top sellers that are Cameroon, from my vantage point, are going to be the Fuente stuff.
Don Carlos,
Don Carlos,
Hemingways,
Hemingway series.
Absolutely.
The Oliva G's sell like crazy.
Those are a great cigar.
The natural Cameroon, aged Cameroon, as they say,
Mm.
sells. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm saying
Right.
it sells.
Right.
Right. So any of this stuff is, but this I'll say is I don't get your typical Cameroon characteristics. From
I don't
when
either.
say
That's why I was
think
asking.
Cameroon cigar. That's why I'm explaining this. Is that a lot of times it's going to be on Dominican tobacco, where this is going to be over, I assume, mostly Honduran tobacco.
Mhm.
And Christian's utilizing this wrapper leaf over something that makes it an exclusive cigar.
And
I
this
don't
is-
imagine that he's got a ton of this tobacco.
And do you guys carry? He did this with another blend too. He did it with the new signature, the gold label.
We don't carry it.
That's also Honduran grown Cameroon. So my guess, I think it's kind of maybe tweaked. If
Very
this
possible.
This is probably a tweaked blend of it. I can't say the binders and fillers are completely the same, but it's another Honduran grown Cameroon, and it is fantastic.
Is
It
the
is
Aurora a higher end than a typical CLE?
Yeah, I think Aroa is
It's just
the
their
flagship
label.
line.
Flagship,
Yeah,
I
that's their
agree.
flagship line. The CLE is more like your everyday kind of approachable.
12 to 15, something like
even
So-
less than that.
Yeah.
Less than
So
that.
at Tinder Box, the CLEs are typically going to come in that $9 to $12 price point, and the Aroas are going to come in that $12 to $16 price
Did
point.
Justin used to work for CLE years ago? Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. As
Justin Richards. Yes.
as a new cigar smoker, I'm from Cleveland, so that's why I went to CLE originally.
Well,
Yeah,
we get
we-
that
we-
still.
yeah.
We forget that.
You guys get that Cleveland cigar?
Yeah.
What?
Yes, we do. Here it is. How many you want?
Yeah, absolutely. How many?
Or you guys got the Clee?
And get the fuck out. Too.
No, hang out and smoke it. I don't care.
That's right.
I don't care what you think.
Go
It is.
smoke.
It's your bourbon. Add whatever you want to it.
That's absolutely right.
There you go.
So this box too is interesting. It reminds me of something that you know what it reminds me of is the Plasencia Fuego box, the Alma de Fuego. Because so on this box, you guys can't really see it too well.
Hold it up.
On the screen. But I was curious what these, you know, again, you guys can't see it. Sorry, we don't have better production here, but you've got these little, you've got these little like kind of Eiroa stickies. It's like almost like the little puff.
They almost look like ball markers.
It's like a puffy sticker. You know what I'm saying?
Like a ball marker.
They almost look like ball markers for the golf course.
But so when we opened it,
don't take them off though.
On the other side, well, what if I want to mark my ball?
It's up to you.
I have never seen you mark a ball.
He just puts out.
Oh, we're talking golf. But no, you have an ashtray.
Oh, okay.
Inside.
Should we use that as the ashtray?
No, not right now.
No,
I mean, it's
come
kind
on,
of
man. I gotta cover
that. It's class.
Well, I gotta cover
like
that.
it. The other thing I'll say about CLE, Eiroa, and all those products is that, and I appreciate you leaving that in there in the box, is the thicker cedar.
Oh yeah,
in there. So they have their own cedar trees on the farms. There you go.
Oh wow.
And, yeah, feel that cedar based on some of the flimsy other cedar things in there. I know it may not seem all that great, you know, if you don't compare it to, if you're not opening cigar boxes. A lot of times it's very, very flimsy and thin. They have very thick cuts of cedar in there. And typically when you open an Eiroa with that name on it, Eiroa, it's the cedar
that
smell.
Box, yeah, it smells.
It is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Is there any advantage to lighting this, or when people put that, lighting the cedar and then lighting the cigar? Is that just?
You guys want to feel that? I have an answer.
I mean, I think most of it is just for show. But typically, you know, you're some people look at it as you're lighting a plant product, the cigar, with a plant product, the wood, and so there's no flavor being transferred like with like using a Zippo with lighter fluid. You know, you'll taste that lighter fluid. So it's a little bit more of a cleaner burn to start your cigar. But I think most people that do it, they're wanting to show off and just.
I think it's ridiculous.
I think it's an outdated thing. I think, again, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
There was a time not that long ago before butane lighters, right? So butane lighters are the big thing now. So regular cigar smokers, including manufacturers, blenders, makers like Christian, use a butane lighter usually. It's odorless and tasteless, especially the higher end butane. So you're not going to, unless you just put it right on the flame and you torch it, you might have an issue there where you might affect the flavor. Before butane, you had lighter fluid that has an odor and a taste. Okay. And you had kerosene. Those were the two major ones. Also odor and a taste. So people talk about, oh, you're supposed to light a cigar with matches or with cedar spills. You can light a cedar spill with a kerosene lamp. You can light it with a lighter fluid like a Zippo or what have you, something like that. Let it burn a little bit, just like a sulfur match, even like the sulfur makes it spark. You never want to do that. You have sulfur-free matches, but when you light a match, you want to get that spark and then let it get to the wood, much like you light a cedar spill with, like, if we had like a lamp, like a kerosene or whatever, you let that initial part burn off. Now you're burning cedar. It's cleaner. If anything, it's not going to be odorless and tasteless, but it'll complement it because you typically store cigars in the cedar.
Well, I just like getting the weeds when I got three experts with me, because you all have different thoughts on it, like what's BS and what's actually.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much in the same opinion as Steve. I think the cedar. I mean, it's old school. It's, you know, it's traditional. It's there's something to be said to
method.
Yeah.
There's a method to it, right?
There's a method to it. There is, but just
those are the
I don't
same
want to
guys.
waste time. I just want to smoke my cigar.
Right.
If I'm going to smoke a cigar, and then, you know, butane lighter does the job just fine.
Those are sometimes the same guys that sit there and lick their entire cigar before they light it.
What? All right. Let's not classify. I remember one time I was sitting on a patio, right? And I had, I think I've told this story. I had one of Soft Flame Cigar, the League of Nine one, $100 lighter.
That's right.
And I was sitting at a table with someone, and a couple, like these four guys were over here just blowing through matches outside, like trying to light, just one of that shit. Boom, 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 boom. Blowing through boxes of matches. And I lean over and I'm like, hey, you know, I got a lighter here. And he's like, oh,
sir.
You shouldn't use a lighter on a cigar. You should use matches. And I said, oh, okay. Thank you for that lesson. And I just turned my back to him, sat there, and I could just
but you know,
fuck. Boom,
you know,
boom, boom, boom.
You might have been being the bigger guy, but you knew what you were saying when you said thanks for the lesson. You knew what you were saying.
He's always the bigger guy. He's always.
Yeah. But it was funny because again, that old school type of mentality. But yeah, again, like we talked about the bourbon, you can put it on a rock, you can do whatever you want with it. Add some water to it, it's yours. If you want to blow through matches and just be pissed off that you can't light your cigar,
go ahead.
Have at it, man.
Cool.
What do you think of the cigar?
So I think that the construction of the cigar, and again, mine's holding up a little bit better than some of the other podcast hosts, but the cigar itself,
we're rough. We got rough fingers.
It's just a classy cigar. Like it's classy with the box, it's clean, it's simple. But as far as the draw, I'm getting an easy draw all the way through. Haven't even thought about relighting it. It's not going to last me 3 hours, which I don't love, but it's going to be a good hour and a half cigar. Flavor wise, now when I first started to smoke it, I did get some, like we talked about, I got some unique flavors that I wasn't, that are not typical in my world of cigars. But do you think that this is more of a medium than a medium full?
I'd say medium plus.
You think it's medium plus?
I'd classify this as, medium plus.
Medium plus?
It's kind of like, a steak where you're like, it's like a medium push. You know what I mean? It's medium, but it's just a little bit over that.
But I think the
I'm
cigar.
with that too. I'm with that too. I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this.
What do you think?
I'm going more towards medium, maybe medium push.
What?
Yeah. That's just where I'm at with it. But you guys obviously smoke a lot more cigars than I do.
Oh yeah.
It's not overpowering.
So I think this particular cigar, in my opinion, I think this starts off medium, maybe even lighter side of medium on the nose. But once you get towards the end,
it develops some more flavor.
I think this one is
build
more strength.
This one,
especially when you get just below the band.
Yep.
And that's
it tapers.
I'm feeling it now. I'm feeling it
but
now.
that's, I think, unique because of this.
The strength of it a little bit more.
But I think
push.
that is also because of this.
I know how to cook a steak.
Go ahead, Nate. I
think it's also because of this unique size.
Okay.
So we didn't talk about this. Like,
what size is it?
To the naked eye, it looks like a regular.
It's called the 1118.
But it's called this is the 1118.
Unique size as well.
Yes. So if you look, it's a little bit thinner ring gauge.
You better smoke that.
It's a little bit thinner at the
dressing her
foot.
back up.
It's a little bit thinner at the foot than
Just
it
a
is just
preview.
below the band.
Is that intentional or
It is. So like in the we kind of joke and we call it the pregnant Toro because it's a little fatter just underneath the band. Christian came up with this size and he calls it the 1118 because that's his mother's birthday.
So it's nothing to do with that. It's just what he calls it.
Yeah, the size is
the size is the 1118. So in order for it to have that thicker ring gauge right here below the band, but still not be looser, that means there's got to be just a little bit more tobacco in that section of the cigar than there is at the foot.
Yeah.
So that means that as you burn and that cigar is getting a little bit thicker, there's going to be more tobacco all of a sudden right there that you're going to be tasting.
I'll say on this box press, it's not as pronounced.
Yes,
correct.
So CLE has the 1118 size,
and I like box presses. So
yeah, but so the CLE line, the Connecticut, Habano, Corojo, what's the? Is there not a Maduro? What is it?
the Prieto
Not the
for
Prieto.
Azabache.
No,
But they don't.
The Habano, the
There's a
Corojo,
Habano, Corojo.
Connecticut.
the Connecticut.
So there is the CLE Prieto.
There's a
That's part of
Prieto and the Chile.
That's a box press. Anyways, the
I don't
round
think they
ones
do
like the
those in the
Corojo, the Habano, and the Connecticut,
They have the Azabache.
if the bulge is more pronounced.
Gotcha.
This
In
you
the
really
ring.
have to look.
Yeah.
If I handed this to you,
I didn't notice it till you guys said
exactly
something.
my point. I don't think you notice it. It's
Yeah.
not as pronounced
If you
in the
didn't
box
see,
press.
if you didn't see that it was on the barcode on the back, yeah, you probably wouldn't notice.
But that size, that just slight taper, once it starts to get towards the end and it starts to build a little bit more, I think that size has. And again, I think the Robusto, it smokes. I mean, they all smoke fairly consistently, right? My favorite size is a Robusto, but for the complexity, I think the 1118 was a good choice to do because it does change quite a bit. when you first light it and all that smoke's kind of funneling through that bigger, that bigger size, I think it's just a little bit cooler. It doesn't burn as hot. Once you get towards the end, it starts to taper down a little bit. It burns a little hotter, and I think the strength definitely builds within a cigar. And that's not a good or a bad thing. It's just complexity, right? Yeah,
that's well said.
Like
no, you're spot on.
When
you're spot on.
When I smoke this, it's just an experience from start to finish. And
I think figure out, as we were talking about today, Miguel was over there. Miguel Shodell from Crowned Heads. He's going to be on the show in July.
Oh,
Put it in.
awesome.
July. But we were talking about some of these figurado sizes, and they're not always the best sellers because people they typically will carry a slightly higher price tag because of the level roller that is needed to do it. I like what Christian has done with the 1118 size because it is just a hint of a figurado, right? So the figurado, it's that developing ring gauge. It changes as you smoke it. And a lot of times if you smoke a blend and say it has a 50 ring gauge, 52 ring gauge, 60 ring gauge, 46, whatever it is, that will smoke differently. You will get a little bit just variations on the flavor.
That's right.
When you do a true like Salomon or a figurado that starts really narrow, has a little bit of a bulge, comes back in tapered, it's what you said. I call it like a journey. Like it really does an experience. It is this 1118 idea of just getting a little bit wider and then coming back in.
Yeah.
It'll smoke differently than if it was just a 52 ring gauge the entire time, in my opinion.
I agree. That's why,
Interesting. No, I think now that I'm like looking for that, that's something I can appreciate more. But it is a different cigar, just like you said, Nate, as you get towards the bottom than when you started in the top, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Rating time. I do want to thank you. He probably isn't listening or whatever. We definitely tagged him in some stuff on social media. Christian, Tom, for them coming out to Columbus, Ohio, going to Royale. Perfect venue for that type of an event. Always a pleasure. And it was just cool to see them, to hear some of these facts that they talked about, because they do basically, it's like any other thing. You have like the hors d'oeuvre hour. You guys had this thing killed by, if you're in the Columbus area, it's Emilio's.
Yes.
Over
Emilio's
on the west
Catering.
side.
Yep.
Emilio's
Catering. They're great.
And they have an everyday restaurant that's more like pizza and Italian food, right? Subs and stuff like that. But their catering was just, you guys had a beef dish for the entree, which was fantastic. Shrimp pasta was great. The hors d'oeuvres or whatever was like a gigantic
charcuterie board or whatever.
Yeah, just
Are people smoking cigars and eating at the same time?
So yeah, we were smoking. They brought out the hors d'oeuvres and everything, and it was great. It was like a kind of a happy hour, if you will, or like that hour before. Then they did the sales presentation. Christian spoke to the retailers in the Columbus area, a little bit stretched out beyond the Columbus area. They had a little PowerPoint type of a presentation.
And just Cleveland boys in the building, didn't we?
Yep, Cleveland. I was surprised not to see Robbie from Dayton. I was hoping he'd be there.
Yeah.
Stogie Smoke Stop. Yeah. Great friend of the community.
Up in Powell?
No.
Stogie Smoke Stop is in Fairfield. What is it?
Huber Heights.
Huber Heights.
Yeah.
So,
great shop.
Great shop. But the facts they're dropping in there about just one that really stood out for those that are interested in this type of stuff is that you're starting to see, like, even a company like Oliva is now getting some property in Honduras because Nicaragua is so saturated because of what it costs to do business. So the average, and I don't know the exact numbers, you remember that part? The average monthly income in Nicaragua to do the type of things they're doing is in the 100 to 200, so like mid hundreds dollars per month. Again, remember, we're in third world countries. In Honduras, it's over $500.
Yeah, it's like 600.
So it's dramatically higher. So I love Nicaraguan tobacco, but the manufacturing side is cheaper to do in Nicaragua than it is Honduras based on this presentation.
Correct.
Very interesting. I had no idea about that. So those are type of, like, they highlight not only what they're selling, but they give a little bit better background on why Christian and what he does in Honduras and why they're in Honduras and what kind of skill level and just it gives you a better appreciation for that.
I'll tell you what, that was probably one of the, for me, that was one of the most special nights in since I've been in this business.
Yeah.
It was so cool. Like, I've had he's been an inspiration to me over the years, right? And then to have Brian and Steve and all the other shops that were, all the great shops within the greater Columbus area. And then you've got, Cleveland and whoever else made it. It was amazing. And then, even had the chance to smoke that old Liberty series, the 05 and the 07 Liberty series. And I don't really remember much towards the end. I think we might have got to both. I don't remember. But
I left
just
before you started your fire out back. So
were you there for when we lit up the Liberty series?
yes, in the beginning.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we left.
We
About
smoked
10,
another. We
30,
smoked
10.
another Liberty series.
And we were not
within
there
that
for
night.
that.
We were there till about 2 instant
Not
change.
there for that.
You were not there for that?
No, it's not.
No. Okay. That was alcohol took over at that point, but it was a great night. It was
a great night.
It was just. I appreciate whoever's watching that was there. I appreciate every single person that was in attendance, and I can't wait to do it again next
And
year.
that's very cool that you all can support each other's
That's right.
businesses and stuff like that. It's,
Absolutely.
it's a community versus a competition, right?
And that is something in the cigar side of it. And I think the bourbon side of it is much the same, is that there's a lot of support out there. We've talked about it with some bourbon companies as well, that even locally here is that they support each other. It is a competition, but it's a healthy competition.
Well, just
And-
like this bottle too. Like, they're being supported. There's a relationship there between Kentucky Owl and Bardstown Bourbon.
Mhm.
That Bardstown is allowing them. They're doing the work of bottling and storing the barrels
Right.
for this product.
Everyone wins. You do it from a business standpoint. Everyone's making a little bit, right? But the competition, so it's like from the retailer side, from that night, we're all competitors.
There's enough business
But
out there for everybody.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yep. All right, so rating. For those that are listening for the first time, we do out of 10, 10 being the best, the rating on the whiskey, on the cigar, and the pairing. So I'll start with Spencer. If you could give us 3 out of 10 ratings on the whiskey, which is the Kentucky Owl 10-year batch 4 last rye.
The last round.
Okay. So
Okay.
I like to take the price point out of it. I know that.
Fair.
Yeah. So as a bottle of bourbon, it's a phenomenal bottle of bourbon. So truly thank you for bringing it. If I didn't think that, if you weren't here,
Absolutely.
I would give you my opinion. We've had people have donated bottles that I have spoken honestly about it. It's gone okay, but
It's all right. It's all right.
as a bottle of bourbon, this is one of the better bottles of bourbon that I've had on the podcast. I'm not just saying that
Amazing.
because of the story behind it. So as a bottle of bourbon, I'll go 8.75.
Okay.
It's
I like that.
yeah, it's a great bottle. There's nothing wrong with it. I want to keep going back to it and back to it and back to it.
Yeah.
Now, am I going to spend $300 on it? No. But am I happy that I get to try it and tell people that I've tried it and am going to enjoy it for the rest of the night? 100%.
Yeah.
The
Absolutely.
cigar itself, knowing the story behind it, of the cigar, knowing the rarity of it, knowing the PCA background, seeing the presentation, for me, that gets me intrigued, right?
Right.
That builds up my palate before I even try it. I'm like,
Absolutely
oh, this is gonna be something good. It's almost like seeing a comedian before, like you're ready to
I'll
laugh.
tell you that
you
red,
know?
that red tissue paper on it too. That just looks great. That red on red. It's a great presentation.
Yeah.
You're right.
So for $20, I would do the cigar all day at your place or any place else.
Sure.
So for cigar, I think it's a 9 as a cigar. Like
Oh,
I said, it was
nice.
consistent all the way through. But now that you've explained it a little bit to me, now that I'm looking for different types of notes, now that I'm looking for different types of strength, it is very different as you get past the tissue paper where it is. Now combined, they go well together, but I do think that they stand alone as well.
Yep.
I think that bottle of bourbon could go with other cigars. I think that the cigar could stand alone to other things. I think that they complement each other, but I can truly get the difference between the two. So combined, I'm going to do 8.8
Okay.
between the two. For me, that's a good to great thing. And again, thank you very much. It's very generous of you to bring this.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Absolutely.
Ryan,
Yes.
ratings.
So for me, I'm kind of along the same line as Spencer. I think the bottle is very unique. I think by itself, it's outstanding. It's a little different than what I think I would drink on a regular basis. I think it has a little more heat.
Mhm.
I think it has a little bit more spice than what I typically drink on a daily basis. But
What about for ryes?
for ryes? It's one. I think it's one of my favorites.
Okay.
But I'm not necessarily a rye guy. So
What do you drink on a daily basis if you're drinking a
If I'm
bourbon?
drinking And it's funny I say I'm not a rye guy because I do love Willet products too, and those are usually majority rye.
Willet rye,
I love all those. But for me, my go-to, my daily Eagle Rare.
Nothing wrong with that.
90 proof, right?
Nothing wrong with that.
90 proof.
If I could get it every day, I
Yeah,
would.
if I could. 90 proof, 10-year age
You're an
stable,
Eagle Rare guy, right?
smooth as can be. I
We're all
think
Eagle Rare guys.
that's my go-to, right? So this is quite a bit different as far as the viscosity, as far as the flavor.
Different product.
A whole different product, right? So with that being said, it's not my daily, but I think I'm going to give it a 9, just because I think it's outstanding.
Agreed.
I don't think if it wasn't for the podcast, I don't think I would go out and buy this bottle again because of the price point. I'm typically 300 is not my go-to.
You're
bottle.
like 5 and up.
Yeah, for a daily. For a daily.
Yeah. But I think it's for those that are willing to spend that money on a bottle. I think that's the one to go to. It's so unique. It's got a great flavor. It's just a great experience.
It's a special bottle.
It's a
special bottle for a
For a
special
special
night.
bottle, I'm gonna give it a 9 all day long.
Like a Wednesday night in a cul-de-sac.
On the Wednesday night on the cul-de-sac, absolutely. And that's a great bottle.
What about the cigar?
Cigar is I'm going to give the cigar a 9.5. I give it a 9.5 because I think it's innovative. I think not many people are using that type of wrapper leaf. And I think the consistency, the flavor, the complexity of this blend, with it being a completely different hybrid, with it being a Honduran grown Cameroon wrapper, how it's smoked, it's one of my favorites that he's ever produced. It's up there, but my favorite's still going to be the Eiroa first 20 years, so I'm not going to give it a complete 10.
The original first 20 year?
The first 20 year Colorado. No, the Colorado.
Colorado, okay.
That's that and a 40 ring gauge. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
So if I were to give any of his product a 10, that's the 10. I think I'm gonna give that a 9.5 together, because I think how unique they are separately, but I think they go really well together. And I thought this would be the perfect combination. So I'm gonna give the combination as a whole, I'm gonna give it a 10.
Fucking 10?
I'm gonna give it a 10.
Fucking
Wow.
10.
I'm gonna give it a 10. I don't know if
10.
there's many 10s on here, but to me, this is a 10 because
It's your rating, man.
It's your
give me a 10. I think this is a 10.
fucking 10.
This
Oh, fuck 10.
Yeah, give it 10.
give her a 10.
10,
Absolutely.
fucking 10.
Well
Nate.
done, man.
Nate, how about yourself?
The Russian judge.
So
Wearing red.
Don't disappoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that Ryan brought this bottle, because I've always had interest in trying Kentucky Owl products.
Is this your first?
That actually has the Kentucky Owl brand.
great.
Yes. Like the Wise Man rye that I showed, I've had that before, which is made by Kentucky Owl, but this is the first like actual Kentucky Owl product, that $125 up price point product that I've had from them. So I've always been hesitant to pull the trigger on that kind of bottle. That's just the way I am. I like finding the bargain bottles.
This is a bargain.
This is one of those that, like, if you're at a bar, definitely try it to see if it's, if you want to drop $300 on the bottle.
$50 a shot or something?
I was going
like
to say that pour is like 50.
But you get to try it without dropping the $300 on an entire bottle.
Great.
Or you get 3 buddies, y'all put in $100 and you sit around one night and you kill the bottle. Like, you can do that too.
Yeah.
So everyone's getting some without everyone chipping in, $300.
That's right.
So I really enjoy this product. I do like ryes. This one, I was actually kind of surprised to see that it was only a 51% rye mash bill. For something like this, especially with that price point, I was expecting that traditional 95.5 rye mash bill. But I really like the flavor on this one, the sweetness. So I give this one a 9.
Okay.
I really do enjoy
that.
it.
9 on the bottle.
That's big for you.
I get a 9 on
And that's not counting the price point. What's in the bottle is a 9 for me. And with this cigar, I think you brought one to the shop before,
I did.
and I didn't know that it was the Honduran Cameroon. I thought it was going to be the Corojo, but I remember smoking. It's like, this doesn't taste like his Corojo. So I didn't know what it was because you'd already left the shop at that point. But I do like the cigar. I love the flavor. And so and I like a lot of the Eiroa products, so I'm going to give the cigar a 9 as well. As far as the pairing, and this, when you think about the rarity of this bottle, the rarity of the cigar, like this is an extremely rare pairing.
True, very true.
But I think these two products, they stand alone. They stand up to each other. I don't necessarily think that one complements or helps the other. So for the pairing, for me, I'm an 8 on the pairing.
Okay.
I think there might be other whiskeys or other cigars that might enhance or complement flavors a little bit.
Or what types of flavors would you look for in the cigar or in the bourbon to go with one?
Well,
darker, heavier cigar, lighter cigar, heavier bourbon.
You could do a heavier cigar, but I wouldn't want to do a heavier cigar that had a lot of spice or a lot of Ligero in it, because I think that would just be too overwhelming on the palate.
Okay.
But I think if you were smoking a little bit stronger cigar that had a little bit more sweetness to it, that sweetness might bring out a little bit more of the sweetness in this rye, where it might counteract some of that rye spice or that cinnamon that we sometimes get with ryes.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't want to go too strong on the cigar. I actually think that this could even go well with something a little bit lighter, like say the Espinosa Laranja or Monte Cristo White Series or the Romeo Connecticut Nicaragua.
Okay.
Something that's got that little bit lighter on the flavor, but something really smooth, thick, creamy texture to the smoke.
Let the bourbon stand out a little bit more.
Maybe a little bit of spice, but not just let it stand out, but it would stand out, but the cigar, those cigars that I mentioned have such a thicker smoke to them that smoke covers your palate. And so you still taste a lot of flavor from those cigars, even though they're on the milder side.
All right. Well said.
Steve?
So I'm a 998 on the bottle. Yeah, I was interested. I'm very interested that you said similar to that.
Exact same.
The bottle, I give it a 9 with the price point. This is a special bottle. If I was going off of what else is on the market for a rye, what's classified as a rye, again, if you can find it, a Willet rye, the 4-year, I like the 3-year better. I've stated that before on the show, but for that kind of price point, under $100, I love that. E.H. Taylor rye is one of my favorites as well. If you can find it, sub $100. So price point, if we did it'd be really interesting to be able to do something like that. Is do a blind taste testing with the Kentucky Owl that we're drinking tonight. You have a Willet rye and you have the E.H. Taylor rye. For me, not even to get into it any more specific, like special bottles of rye, but just to see where this panel would be at on rating A, B, and C blind taste testing. It would be interesting for me. But, going along with what Spencer said, I take that into consideration tonight with the current guests we have. I give it a 9. I think this is fantastic. This is what I want out of a rye. I can appreciate other ryes like we had last week. This, with the age on it, with what we're drinking, price aside, I give it a 9. Yeah. Price involved and the competition out there, it's tough. If I had this sitting next to another bottle that was under $100 that I really like, I'm not buying this.
So if this was a $100 bottle, would you buy it?
More likely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're not pushing over $100 on what we're drinking tonight, strong 9.
I think it would also depend on the availability of those products too.
Availability, but if apparently I can get this easier than I can get the others. And on the
well, that's because not as many people want to spend
on the secondary market. This isn't driving up beyond that.
That's true.
A whole lot. So this is a true price tag because
Which
now there's
I'm
not a
surprised
secondary.
Because there's a lot of guys that'll spend $800 on a Weller single barrel.
I have something I'd like to sell. Yeah.
I didn't look at you intentionally. I'm just saying.
With the cigar, I say 9 on that because it is unique. It's not for everyone. I think this is something that anyone can enjoy, but it's, again, having the uniqueness of that Cameroon wrapper grown in Honduras. It's not going to be your traditional Cameroon. I don't know if Cameroon smokers would like this as much.
I agree.
I think this is a cigar that people that don't like Cameroon would still enjoy. So when you tell them that, it's going to throw them off. I think so. To Spencer's point, he just put his down. I still have a little bit. The construction on mine was fantastic. This is what I expect anymore from Christian.
Yeah.
And his whole operation. The pride that he takes in his operation. The opportunity that we had on Monday night over at Royale Cigar Lounge in the Columbus area, having Christian there explaining it, showing some like the new box factory, showing the facilities that he has just in the new stuff and what they're expanding, doing. They've got a new operation going into the capital area of Honduras because other areas are getting more saturated. So seeing what he's doing, this is what I expect, especially on an exclusive release from him. So I give it a 9. The pairing, I say an 8 because I would say when you were asking Nate, with this bottle, if I was just to pick blends, I would do Nicaraguan filler binder and either a broadleaf, Connecticut broadleaf, or an Ecuadorian Habano.
Really?
I would think
Something
that
a
would
little thicker.
pair a little bit more enjoyable with this bottle. If
That's
I was
fair.
to bump it
That's
up
fair.
on the cigar,
8 is still good.
So,
right? That's what I'm
So
saying.
that'll be interesting to try this.
I'm not looking forward to the pairing of the Trinidad Espiritu
That's
number
what
2.
I
I
was
think
thinking.
that's a little bit much.
You think?
For this? I think so. With that Brazilian wrapper, Nicaraguan, and Brazilian tobacco in there. The cigar, I would think that this might really complement a true bourbon, even a wheated bourbon. Get a little sweetness added to the mix as opposed to the spice from the rye. I think that would be something that would bump the pairing up on either side of that to more of a 9 level on that. We could pick something now that we've had the bottle, we've had the cigar, we've had them together. We could have, like, again, a little bit of a maybe switch the cigar or switch the bottle for the cigar and maybe make it a little bit better pairing. 8 is still good. I agree completely. That being said, Ryan, thank you so much for bringing the bottle, the cigars. Cheers to Kentucky Owl. Cheers to Christian Eiroa for that. Always great seeing Christian. And before we round out, guys, grab your swag at buyjack.com/bourbonandbs. I've got the black podcast shirt.
We got
Nate's-
some lady stuff on there too.
Absolutely. There is a black and red V-neck ladies shirt available on there, and they turned out great.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Model one. Model one to show.
I should model one.
On the show.
All right. We'll get one for you next time you're on, Sean.
I'm not afraid.
I know you're not afraid. But yeah, buyjack.com/bourbonandbs. Appreciate all the support there. And also patreon.com/bourbonandbs podcast or Venmo @bourbonandbs if you guys want to do a one-time donation or buy a bottle, and we can do our best to locate that bottle. And then also Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. They don't have this cigar. Royale has this cigar, but Tinder Box at Easton has a great line of Eiroa, CLE, and Asylum products available for you guys. If you're not local, you don't have a local brick and mortar, contact Tinder Box at Easton, and we can do our best to ship it out to you.
Buy one, get one.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, I'll say the deal right now is we have some Robusto 4-packs that are 20% off, and it's a CLE pack. There's also an Asylum pack available right
That
now.
CLE packs. Great.
So check that out if you're in the area.
Get that CLE pack.
But definitely appreciate that support. And Altus USA, we're about to light up the Trinidad Espiritu number 2 for part 2. Thank you, Josh Bentley, and everyone at Altus USA for the continued support of the podcast for the last 3+ years.
Wow. Congratulations.
Fantastic. That's why we have the banner behind us. Mike Cristo, Romeo Julieta, H. Upman, Adrian, among countless others that they have. Trinidad would be one of those. So thank you very much. And also check out the BS cigars, the gold and the silver. They are available at Tinderbox. They're also available at Royale in Columbus. If you want a 5-pack, contact Tinderbox at Easton. They'll get you out a BS cigar sampler for you. So, guys, thank you very much. Cheers. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. We're
Cheers,
rolling into
boys.
part 2. If you're listening live, make sure you just stay tuned during the intermission, and we'll be back momentarily. Have a great week.
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
I'm giving her a gold so she can try. She's never had one.
Really? Oh, there you go. There you go.
Seriously, Ryan, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
that was fucking
Guys, thank you.
class, bro. Absolute class.
And Spencer, thank you for
I
being
wouldn't
here.
want to
I
do
do
it
what I
with anyone
can.
else, that's for sure.
What?
I do what I can.
I know you do.
Yeah.
And even when it's not that great, it's nice effort.
It's an 8.
Do we
It's an
have
eight.
is there
It's an
intermission-
8
like,
or
is
is
there
it
like
an
a-
8?
8.
Like intermittent song that you put? Like, can we do the song real quick?
You
Yeah.
want
What
to
would you like to play?
All right, so in the intermission, Ryan's going to be doing karaoke requests.
Yeah.
If you want to,
Put it in the comments and we'll see what happens.
we have a request for Barbra Streisand. What do you know from her catalog?
Well,
Just the hits.
nothing.
The soundtrack to
Late 80s, early 90s, Billy Joel.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was Bette Midler. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Bette Midler.
Anything from beaches.
Hey, stop it.
Anything from beaches.
What do you know from Bette Midler?
You know.
Wind Beneath My Wings, right? Is that? No, that's
Don't
Bette
act like
Rose.
you don't know what it is. You know what it is.
Do that song.
Well done.
What do you want to say? Cool.
Anything 90s and up.
Backstreet Boys.
I'll do Backstreet Boys. I'll
There's
give
nothing
you
wrong
what
with
you
BSB, bro. Nothing wrong with BSB.
Sean Anderson says, "Sing Jolene." Which version?
want.
Dolly Parton, clearly.
I can do the Dolly Parton.
I don't believe it.
Wouldn't look as good in the shorts.
What do you need?
Well, we lost one of the members.
What's the topic?
He said, "What's the topic?"
It's okay to
It's
struggle.
okay to struggle.
It's okay to struggle.
Do y'all like the cigars or the bourbon at all? Yeah, very much so. The cigar was amazing. The retro
It's nice.
had some really good form.
I agree.
Figure out like a minute, 30 seconds or something.
All right, man. I got Spencer.
Let the dog out?
No.
Tony.
Tried to wear him out on a mile and a
good
half
boy.
walk.
Wait, mile and a half?
Yeah, before the podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
See, when I take Tessa to the dog park, she's got maybe a couple laps around the dog park. She lets me know it's time to go home.
So I haven't been doing many walks with Tony lately, as far as like the long ones I did when I first got him.
Yeah.
Now that it's getting warmer, I want to get him out. And I tell you what, he was gassed about a mile into it. I mean, I came back and Nate was already here. And so we walked up, and even Nate noticed, he's not like running up being crazy. Like, he just kind of walked up and just panting and just wanted to say hi to Nate, but he's gassed.
That's good. That's good for
He's
him.
got to shed a little bit of that winter weight. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Get some more steps in.
It's always important to get those.
But he was
steps in.
happy.
For you and him. Get those
You
steps in.
know, that's right.
Do they make Fitbits for dogs?
Yeah, it's on my Apple Watch.
Put it on his tail, and it's just
No, it was nice. I actually went down to the trails like I used to. I haven't been down there for a while.
Good, man.
It
That's amazing.
was nice. Smoking a BS Gold on the way.
That was you too.
A couple of looks, but it's all right.
Yeah, I get looks
Boys
too when I
to Men.
smoke when I'm walking.
Yeah.
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 Let's see.
Probably what I'm
Boys to
smoking.
Men was requested.
Boys and Men. Which,
Well,
what's
when I was walking today, there was
I'll do Boys and Men.
there was a lady with a stroller right in front of me. We were coming up to an intersection, and for my normal loop, I make a left, and I was like, "Hey, are you going left up here?" And she goes, "What?" And she actually had to think about and point which direction was left. Oh, that person has a kid, and she's like, "Yeah, I think so." And I was like, "Okay, I'm going to go across the street because I'm smoking a cigar and I don't want to immediately blow back in your face and your kid's carrier." She goes, "Oh, well, then I'll just take a right then." I'm like,
That's fine.
works for me.
Did you know which way that was?
Which way right was?
Yeah.
She narrowed it down.
It's a 50-50 right there. It's a 50-50.
50-50.
Well, Sean, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's been a rough day for work, and I'm glad I'm here. Definitely
Good.
Being here. I got good company now. I taught her how to retro hail, and I forgot that it does make your eyes water a little bit.
It might make you sneeze a little
It's
bit.
only
too,
the
cough.
first time. No.
I told her keep trying. It'll get a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Charlie Creekmore, who's an avid listener. Hey, Stephen Nate, just got on. Great to be here, at least for part 2. Hope your pairings went well. Bette Midler, what the hell? Sean Anderson's not bad. You're right, Sean. Glad you're doing well. Miss you. Sean Anderson's a great supporter of the podcast.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
I see him every time I tune in. Every time. I don't know if I've even met Sean Anderson.
He'd be a great host.
He was in town for the what's that?
He'd be a great host. Like to actually go down to his place and hang out
Oh,
with him.
yeah. To go down there. Yeah, for sure.
Is he one of Tim Kime's friends or no?
No, he's from Tennessee.
He's from Tennessee. Okay.
He knew or he knows Jonathan Herring, who's with Forge Cigars.
Yes.
So he knew him from back in the day, and so that's how he got turned on to the podcast. And since
always
then,
on
he's
here.
been been a big
That's
one.
very
There's
cool,
Doug Ruffalo out there. Thanks, Doug. Good to see you back on Facebook.
When Sean was in town for the 10 event, the Friday before the 10 event, he was hanging out at the shop all day, and he brought in some bottles and was just sharing with anybody who wanted to pour, and gave Steve and I each a bottle of Eagle Rare because it was a little easier for him to get down there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like he brought some very, very nice bottles, and that day he went through 6 of them.
including
Jesus,
the bottle of
man.
Eagle Rare that he gave me. I'm like, he's like, I'm out of whiskey. I'm like, no, you're not. You just gave me a bottle. Here, let me go grab it.
Sean Anderson, good for you, man. That's amazing.
Good dude.
Good dude.
He was just on vacation too, and day 1, day 2, and I think there's another day that he was sporting the swag.
Mm-hmm.
He had the pink charity shirt on.
I like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
That's a sweet shirt.
He had the red shirt that Spencer has on, the BS folks on the Silver Line. He had the red version of that on. So I love that. He had the BS Cigar Company hat on.
I still have the original.
He was wearing the pink shirt at the 10 event.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
he's a big boy, so that he stood out wearing that.
Yeah. You guys ready?
Let's do it. Run
I'm
it.
not sure where this is going to go.
Run it.
Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is part 2 of episode 220. Beyond the BS. We reviewed tonight, thanks to Ryan Newman from Royal Cigar Lounge. Royal or Royale?
However you want to do it. Royale.
How do you say it?
I say Royale.
It's the E on the end. Yeah, it's a hard.
Party. You like that? Yeah.
Royale Cigar Lounge in Columbus, Ohio. Fantastic lounge. Check them out. And he also has his roots at the Tinder Box at Easton, which is one of our sponsors, which we appreciate that. Tinder Box at Easton, Columbus, Ohio. Check them out. But we had tonight Kentucky Owl, batch 4, the last rye.
Close.
Damn it. 10 year.
So close.
I forgot the 10 year.
Yeah, you did. Kentucky Owl,
10 year
batch
batch
4, the last
the
ride.
last ride.
And it even says on the back of the bottle, because you didn't read it this week, but yeah, this is the final release of that series.
That's right.
As I mentioned.
That's right. So we reviewed that in part 1, as well as the Eiroa, the PCA exclusive 2021, which had a Cameroon wrapper by way of Honduras, the Amistran region. So listen to part 1 if you guys are listening on the audio and you clicked on part 2 first. Make sure you check it out. We had about an hour and a half. It was a great conversation about all these products and also a little bit about Ryan. We have Spencer Lappin still in the garage, who's taking a sip. How are you?
It's still good.
Still good.
It's still good. You guys, yeah.
Good.
You
Still
got-
good.
yeah,
Smooth.
yeah. Let's hit your lips. So good. I recommend it.
Tastes like whiskey.
Yeah, I like how it tastes like whiskey.
But yes, anyways, we had those on part 1. Check that out. Tonight on part 2, this is Beyond the BS. This is where we kind of get into more of just a life topic, kind of when you hang out over drinks with friends, you're in a cigar shop, you start, talking, what are you smoking? What are you drinking? That type of thing. And then something comes up and 220 episodes in, it's tough coming up with it. But having these guys on, which are repeat guests, Ryan Newman and Spencer Lappin. I know, Ryan, we went over a little bit of your story at one point, so I'm not going to really focus on that. Recently, we had Jesse Hubbard on and Adrian. And so we had that recently where we were talking about men's mental health. So I don't want to necessarily focus on that. We can always get that way if it gets that way in the conversation. But really, I mean, it's just, it's okay to struggle. And that goes with anything. Things are going well. That's great. But sometimes that'll set you up for, if you take things for granted. I mean, so I feel like sometimes you go through the motions. Those struggle, those success stories of where you've got knocked down, you got to get back up. Your back's against the wall or the ropes, and you have to really do that. It really does reframe you. And during that struggle, it can suck. And I guess that's what I want to talk to you guys about with jobs, with life, with health, with relationships. I mean, there's so many different aspects of life that when, what have you struggled with? What got you to that when you reflect back on that? What got you? Did you set yourself up for that moment where all of a sudden now you're struggling again? Is it outside factors? Is it both? I mean, and then the saying of you can't appreciate the peaks if you don't go through the valleys, right? I think when I say it's okay to struggle, it can suck and it can be a long struggle. And sometimes we have that kind of saying on the podcast that when you're trying to focus on things, if all you focus it on the struggle and that hand's in your face, it is really tough to get that perspective and push that hand away so you can actually focus on not only what's happening, but also where you're going. I think it is a lot of like, what energy are you putting into these struggles or what led you up to that, or on the other side of it, when you see the light at the end of the tunnel, when you see that you're climbing, you're getting closer to that peak, how much time do you actually spend looking back? And is that a healthy habit or healthy mentality to focus on what got you there? Because there's a lot of stories of, you know, coming out of a huge obstacle, and that drove you to get to where you're at. Do you let go of that at some point, or do you keep a hold on that? And if you do keep a hold on that struggle, does that hinder you from truly appreciating or truly succeeding now that you're out of that struggle or out of that valley?
I might take it. Maybe, you know, you said, does it suck while you're in it? So, you know, when we had Jody here a little bit ago, maybe a few months ago, you know, one of the community members, she was saying, hey, I really don't get to see men talk about their issues.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something that she enjoyed, was just being able to see kind of men just talk openly and freely. And it, you know, and I think this is maybe around the 20th time I've been on this episode. It feels like I don't know how you guys do this every week. I really don't. Like it takes it out of me like for a day. And
How
you know,
so?
well, because, you know, one, the amount of alcohol in the cigars, first and foremost, but then it's also, you know, it's like a 3.5 hour, like almost therapy session.
Right.
So when you said suck, yeah, it sucks. But what I like to do is when you're in a situation is to embrace the suck.
Yeah, I like that saying.
So when you're in a tornado, when the relationship isn't going the way you want it to go, when the job's not going the way you want to go, when there's health issues, family issues, stuff like that, it's to really be cognizant of, all right, what is actually going on? What is actually happening here? And what I try to do is, all right, so we're in it now. We're in the job's not going the way we want it to go. I'm not in the situation I want to, you know, with my partner. So embrace the fact that you're in it. And if you're aware that you're in that, not that you're looking for the light at the end of the tunnel, but just be aware that you're in the suck so that you can handle it, not to get to the next step, but to know exactly what you're doing at that given time.
Sort of acknowledge it, embrace it. You know, it's not just avoid it, because I think a lot of times you will stay in that struggle longer if you just not ignore it, but it's better than the unknown.
Right.
I know this. I know this feeling.
Yeah.
And when I wake up, I go to bed, this is something that I'm dealing with. And that's that hand in your face.
Right. On a very small level, you know, if you're, you know, going to the gym or something like that, and you know you got a tough work, but embrace the fact that it's tough and it sucks. But if you can get through those momentary issues or those momentary difficulties, that you know that if you get through that you will feel better about the situation.
Yeah.
You know, as far as, you know, a job situation or a relationship situation is to know that the state of being that you're in right now is not the state of being forever, but to realize that you're in this current state and try to get your way through that, not necessarily what the outcome is going to be, but just know that you're headed towards something else. Know that you're in the tornado when it happens. A lot of times that stuff happens in threes. Know that, hey, we're in it. You know, you got a bunch of balls in the air. Some of them you can control, some of them you can't, but know that those balls are in the air, and know that, hey, I might have to drop one or two, but that's okay. And not predicting the outcome, but just knowing that you're in the situation and focus on the suck so you can get out of it versus denying it versus complaining about
How
it.
do you do that?
Yeah, I was going to say, because usually, this is my opinion,
Go for it.
when one avenue of your life is starting to kind of go downhill, whether it be a job or a relationship or you know, something with your family, whatever the case may be, right? And it's draining. It's getting to the point where, you know, you're starting to suffer, right? It usually impacts other aspects of your life. I know I've gone through it.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, what you're saying is great, and I absolutely agree. But how do you get to that point, right? How do you get to
What's the
point?
playbook?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's
What's the
different
playbook?
every situation. I mean, again, whether it be a relationship, a job, or what, like you kind of highlight a couple, health, right? That's a big thing too. Like you talked about.
All right.
You glanced on that.
Without your health, you got nothing. But if you can somehow, for me personally, everyone handles these situations differently. But if you had mentioned, hey, if one aspect of your life isn't going well, that normally transfers to, hey, well, this other thing in my life's not going well, and they can kind of overlap each other. But if somehow you can compartmentalize them into, all right, let's not let one thing overcome into something else. The job's not going great, but let's not let this affect my friendships. Let's not this. Let this
My home life.
My home life.
Yep.
Relationship.
If you can somehow separate those or shut the door mentally, that you don't bring whatever struggles you have in one aspect of life, try not to bring that to the second. You know, it's like if you go to you guys are on social media a little bit more than I am, but if you have 100 comments and all the comments are good, and then you have that one comment that isn't a great comment about whatever it is, to not focus on the one comment, but to try to focus on the 99 right ones. But in general, if you have a struggle in one aspect of life, to try not to have that consume the other aspects of life, because they are different situations. So to try to handle one situation without bringing it into the other situation.
It's mental effort. I mean, like I'd say the most relatable thing for a lot of people would be if you're having problems at home, don't bring it to work.
Or vice versa.
Easier said than done, though.
It is easier said than done, but I mean,
We've all
that's
been there.
one of those. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that it takes that mental effort. I mean, it is an exercise of mental will and strength to do that, to compartmentalize, like Spencer's talking about. Yeah, you have a bad day at work. You don't like your job, whatever it is, your career that you're doing right
Your
now,
boss, whatever.
your
Yeah.
boss, whatever. You can vent to your friends, your significant other. You can go home, but don't use that as just a sounding board. You have to remember why they're your friends, why your home is your safe place, why it is your home, your significant other is that person. I mean, I think you really do. The compartmentalizing of it is not necessarily just don't talk about it, but be able to have that. I mean, express it, vent a little bit. But if all you do is vent, now all of a sudden it's all negative.
Well,
Right.
you're reliving the trauma several times.
Absolutely.
Right? So you already have the trauma, or you already have, hey, I got a big meeting this week, and you're already anxious for that. To try not to relive the trauma before it even happens as many times, or if the trauma already happens, do not relive it. Sometimes people will say, hey, I got into a fight with my, girlfriend, wife, whatever the situation is. Okay. You went to your you guys always like to use the word, the board of directors, or your trusted people, whether it's your family, friends. Okay. Go to one or two people, get their opinion, but don't just keep going until you actually get the opinion that you want, or the one person, or just don't
look for that echo chamber.
try not to make a mountain out of a molehill in general. That's what works for me. It doesn't work for everybody, but I know everyone has to have that vent and things like that. But don't make it just because we keep talking about it. It can be all consuming, where in the grand scheme of things, how much is that one situation? How big of a part of your life is it actually, or is it just a moment or a blip in your day versus is it your whole day?
I think there's a process to it that when you talk about what works for you, but it may not work for everyone. There's the saying of like time heals all, but I really think there is, again, an effort there. Like what works for you, Spencer. I mean, and again, I think there's a lot of personal assessment. Again, effort.
It's choices.
Yeah, especially when things, whether you're active in that or it happens from outside factors. The dwelling on it, the embracing it, and then that becomes your identity, whether it be short term or longer than short term, that you're just a sad person, you're struggling. I would encourage people to talk to other people. Get it out there. Don't take it on your own shoulders, that struggle, what it might be. But no, you said board of directors, your friends. If you just continue to spew that, find people that when things are good, they're there for you. When things are bad, they're there for you, and vice versa, that you reciprocate. And if you don't have that, going back to the conversation, with Jesse the other week, I mean, the mental health side of it, sometimes you have to go to a third party, and I encourage you to do that. But that third party, hopefully, if you're that third party for other people, it's not always going to be reciprocated, and you have to acknowledge that. Again, there's an assessment there that not everyone's going to be that same person. They're your close friends. When things are going well, when things aren't going well, they bail completely. That you got to be able to understand where people are coming from.
And is that okay to have people like that in your life?
It is.
If they add to it versus every time, hey, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And they want to dwell into not your sorrow, but they're the Debbie Downer of the situation.
Not just that, but I mean, say when things are going, bad in your life, and you're just completely out for anything, right? Like, let's say you're not available for anybody else.
Okay.
I mean, is it okay to have somebody, because the topic at hand is it's okay to struggle. People handle that differently, right?
Yeah.
The way that I handle my struggle is completely different. I might, if I'm struggling with something long term, I might just completely do a 180 and have a full different change of lifestyle, right? And that's okay, because
What do you mean?
so, to his point, right? I have been, I mean, maybe not, but we all know a person that when life is tough, it affects them at their job, it affects them, with their family, it affects them with their other friends. And sometimes when you're affected like that, you're not as emotionally available, or on a professional level, sometimes you're not the same person at work. Is
Not
it
yourself.
Not as
You're not
focused.
yourself.
Not
Is
as
that
focused.
is it okay to be like that? Is
Sure.
it okay to, and if so, for how long until it's just, like, okay, like you gotta change, because that's not you. It's the problems that you're going through, but you need to get out of it.
So
You can't stay that way forever.
if you ever deal with someone who has a level of depression, or if there's health issues in the house, sometimes it can be like a level of sadness. But have you ever been with the person, okay, here are 10 different ways for you to get out of your situation. But if that person's not willing to take one of those suggestions, and then you have the same conversation 2 weeks from now, a month from now, 3 months from now, and you say, well, you're not unhappy with your current situation, but here's the 10 different ways for you to get out of it. Some people just like to complain and are content with being in a state of misery or in a state of unhappiness. But
if
if
people are content with that, or
I think that some people are very content with being unhappy because they're content with the sadness, or they're content with being in a bad spot because they don't like to complain about it, but that's their normal.
I think it's just a level of comfortability, right? It has
Sure.
nothing to do with being content to be sad, right? Because nobody wants to be sad or in a bad situation, bad work situation, or
I
bad
think
relationship.
I think some people like being in that state, because when they're complaining about an issue over and over, other people are listening.
There you go.
And so they feel they have the attention. And so they don't mind being in that state because it gives them a sense of attention. But I think at some point, the audience is going to realize that it's the same thing over and over, no matter what we say to that person, no matter how much help we offer that person doesn't change, and they don't want to change. So they just stop.
Or maybe they want to, but they choosing not to for whatever
Well,
reason.
and so at some point that audience just stops paying attention.
Well,
They start giving attention. They stop giving advice, because what good is it to sit there and try and help someone with their problems, but you see them just constantly keep making the exact same mistakes?
Right.
At some point, that person's going to realize, all right, I'm wasting my time every time I try and help you out, or tell you how to possibly deal with this on your own. You won't listen to anybody. You just want to do whatever. So don't come to me for help.
On that note, it's not just wasting your time, it's the energy. I mean, you can keep doing that, but now all of a sudden that's consuming your day, as the outside person. And to your point, is the attention or the focus of that situation is now consuming drama in your own life, and therefore, once again, it's bleeding over to other things, possibly
Right.
your relationship, your job, because now all of a sudden you're getting that mentality. You want to support that, and Ryan, it's like there is no right time limit there, but the longer it goes, it's that quicksand effect, in my opinion.
Well, you start losing more.
You keep sinking
Because
further and further into it.
Not everybody's going to hang around for 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Now
but
that's the new problem, right? So like I used to be able to talk to this person. Now that person just said they're not available. It's like asking that person to just hey, when do you want to hang out? Hey, you want to come out for dinner? No. And then you ask again, you ask. Like,
You
hey,
stop
it's
inviting
exhausting.
them.
you
It's
keep
exhausting.
doing that, and then it's like, you know what? Then they're like, well, you never want to hang out. It's like 6 months. You kept saying no. I stopped asking. There's all sides of this. You know what I mean? It's repetitive nature that can really breed I don't want to say a sickness, but it can breed that whole thing where it's like there has to be a change. There has to be the realization of how do you want to spend the finite time that you have on this earth? And do you want to do it? And if you're reaching out to people and they're giving you a hand and you just keep batting it away because you enjoy sinking, not enjoy that. I think that was said. Yeah, like that's the norm.
That's what you know.
And again, we're not getting into it. We're not experts here. And for those listening,
Well, speak for yourself.
you might be an expert. But I'm saying like it's not necessarily that they're giving advice. If there is some, like, again, there are third parties out there that if you do want to reach out to and you hit that, whether it be a breaking point, a rock bottom, whatever it is, but before you can, the thought is for me is that you want to learn from these experiences so that you can have that assessment that the last time you were in this type of situation, job, relationship, health, or whatever, hopefully you dug yourself out and you can have this kind of reflective moment where this is the struggle and it's okay to do that. It's embracing the fact that it's not going to be perfect. And some of your people that you look up to, whether it be in your social circles, it's your family, whatever, you talk to them enough and you ask them about this and you have an open dialogue, they've struggled as well. It's just like looking at like the success of people that you admire. They didn't just wake up and they were successful financially, relationship wise, career wise, happiness, whatever it might be. It didn't just happen. They had their struggles too. It's the realization that it's not always that smooth sailing. And typically the smooth sailing, if you take it for granted, in my opinion, will set you up for some sort of a struggle.
Yeah, I feel like, so Ryan, I felt like you were going somewhere with what you were saying. You want to elaborate a little bit about kind of where you're going with it?
With what exactly?
Just as far as, hey, you either go 180 or when you're in a situation, everyone struggles.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's the way you come out of it, right? I mean, some people come out and, they learn a lesson. Some people come out a completely different person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there have been times in my life where I think everybody goes through this, right? But being, mid-late 20s, I think it's a really confusing time. I mean, you're supposed to, in theory, you want to have everything together, right? But, you have stresses at home with your relationship. You have stresses, with your job. Everybody goes through them. But you're at an age where you can just say, you know what? I'm just going to make a drastic change and just, whether it be career-wise, and do something completely different, or whether it be, you know what, this has been a 5, 6, 7 year long relationship, but I'm not happy.
How long do you want to be unhappy?
I'm out. Yeah, I'm out.
Do you see if I wait another couple of years, would that or rip the Band-Aid off?
Right. There's when I say completely changing, I'm not necessarily taking like your personality. I'm saying the direction in life that you're going, and that's okay. That's okay to do that, but for how long? Again, at some point you need to dial it in. You need to find your calling. You can't just run away from every time that you're struggling with something. You can't always just run away and just up and leave.
I think it's important to know what your yellow flags are versus what your red flags are.
Right.
And if there's true red flags that are not changeable, then be like, okay, do I want these red flags in my life for forever? Or if these are unchangeable, then do I start the mindset, okay, how do I make the change that I know? Not necessarily, I always like to say, it's not necessarily the grass is greener, right?
Right.
But it's also, hey, you might not be playing in green grass either. So it's not, hey, that there's always something better on the other side. It also might just be, hey, but I might just be playing in the dirt right now.
Well, a buddy of mine, Pastor Jeremy, a good buddy of ours, once told me this. He said, the grass is always greener, but eventually you get accustomed to that. You get accustomed to that field. Once you get accustomed to it, you're looking for a change. It has nothing to do with it not being greener. It's different. It's a different shade of green, right?
That's interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard that way.
But at what point can you be complacent with where you're at and not have a complete just change of direction altogether? Because eventually you have to have some sort of.
And sometimes it takes another person calling you out on that.
You're right.
Realize.
You're right. You're absolutely, because sometimes you're gonna veer too far left or right, and you're going to lose, your sense of direction and your sense of purpose.
So I'm going to tell this story about my wife, and I know she's watching. So I'm pretty sure I'll get a text message while
she can comment on this.
Add that into the chat.
And Sean Anderson does say, I was listening to that, the grass is greener wherever you water it. I mean,
okay,
to a point, yes, I like that saying, but
same
sometimes you can water the shit out of it, and that grass or that relationship, that career, it's not going to be the yard you want to be in.
That's right.
But so years ago, in my wife's one of her previous jobs, she'd come home and every day, being good husband, like, hey, how was your day? And just day after day, it was nothing but negativity. She didn't like what she was doing or who she was working with or for. And over time of just hearing that negativity, like I didn't get tired of supporting my wife or being there for her. Obviously, I got tired of it. It just hurt. She was always focusing on the negative. And so eventually I got to the point where I just stopped asking how her day was, because I knew if I asked her how her day was, it was going to be something bad. And it was also going to put her in a negative mindset. She was going to be in a bad mood because now she's dwelling on whatever the negative of that day was. And eventually she caught on to that. And she's like, hey, how come we never talk about our day anymore? And I'm like, because every time I'd ask you, you would tell me about how bad your day sucked.
Yeah.
And I got tired of asking you because you were too focused on that. And that was a moment that kind of clicked on her to stop focusing on the negative. And it caused her to kind of shift her mindsets where even if she had a negative day at work, she didn't bring it home with her. Kind of like what you talked about, Spencer. Like, whether, there's one area of your life that's being negative, does it impact other areas? I think if it's something that happens in your primary areas of focus, it's much more likely to affect those other areas. Just because that's something that you hold on to, it's something important. So like, family, if something's going wrong with your spouse or with you, like that's going to impact other areas just because that's going to radiate out. The outside stuff, like I've talked about, and I know Steve likes it when I say like some of those secondary or tertiary issues, those are things that if things are going wrong there, you can cut those off.
Absolutely.
It's a lot easier, I think, to cut those off than it is to cut the primary areas of focus off, because those aren't the most important things. You can refocus and
put things into perspective a little bit more.
It's perspective, like what is important.
That's right.
So if I'm unhappy at my job, how many areas of that life do I let it affect? But if I'm unhappy at home, it's very difficult for that not to affect other areas going outward, like relationships with friends, relationships.
Why?
Because that is such an important issue that it has a constant effect on your mindset, because that issue carries so much weight.
Well, I think, it's all dependent, right? Like, it depends the individual. There are some people that, it's that way with work. I mean, some people are very much content with, and it's worse for many people to get a divorce. Let's say if your problem was at home, right, with your spouse, to just cut it off. It's not always the easiest way, but people have done it and have lived very happy and successful lives, and that's what they needed for their life.
All right, so perspective, where do you spend the most waking hours of your life?
At work.
At work, 100%.
Okay.
100%.
Just throwing that in that mix. Go on.
What does that mean? Related to that topic?
Well, so from Nate's perspective is that the weight is on the home life, right?
Right.
Because the weight emotionally, what the weight of importance is there. That is, I think, a ratio that is often overlooked and sometimes can muddy the waters, is that your actual waking hours in a typical day. And we always talk about, with relationships, you really have to work at that. Work does too. But as far as the weight of emotion, I do feel as though it does carry very similar weight, because it is on that ratio of hours of your waking life it's at work. Yeah, maybe you're not as emotionally invested if you're working a 9 to 5. You know, you don't care about the people, you don't care about your boss pissing you off or whatever.
Right.
But I don't want to necessarily ignore the fact that just your absolute effort of time. So say you work 8, 10, 12 hours a day, that allows you to, and you sleep, say 6 to 8 hours a night. How many hours are left? 24 hours.
So
The minority.
about
Yeah,
8 to
not many.
6 to 8 hours left.
Maybe. And that's not even giving you your time.
Right.
Yeah, that's getting up, getting to work, getting back from work.
Bingo.
Yeah. Driving.
Yeah.
Getting ready, showering, doing your hobbies,
But-
doing other things. I'm just saying the weight of importance is something I feel like that's part of the mix here. You can, because if you're having a problem in that at work, if you're struggling, you come home and you have this really short time. And I like what you said, Nate. You have this very short time with this person that you have so much emotional value to. The time doesn't match up to that. If you have problems at home, you have a lot of time in your waking hours that you can dwell on that and try to either ignore it while you focus on other things, or you can carry it into either side of that.
Absolutely.
And now all of a sudden, I do think that from the relationship standpoint, your own personal life, not even if you're single, right? Your own personal. All you do is you go home, you turn on Netflix, you eat shit because you're just venting. I mean, these are those things that I think you really have to look at how many hours that you're actually spending with these different venues of your life. But I will stress that work, what you do with your hours that you have in the day, work will dominate that.
Yeah.
And if your home life then becomes chores and having to do things, and you don't allow that single time for yourself, or if you have someone in your life and you don't put that as a priority, it is a bit of a balance there, but it's also an understanding. So if you're unhappy in one of those things, I will say that the biggest part of it is not just running away. The grass is always greener type mentality.
Right.
I don't think that you have to be able to really just, pack up and go, whether it be the job, the relationship, the city you live in, the apartment, the house you're in. Things aren't going well. You really have to, I think, go head on with it and start not only reassessing, like I mentioned before with what Spencer was talking about, but having those conversations like you had, Nate. I think that's a very, very important thing.
Maybe instead of leaving the yard, you feed and water the yard.
You go out, you fucking go out to the yard, first of all.
Yeah.
Don't stay inside.
Yeah.
Don't avoid. Don't avoid it. I mean, I know that sounds funny, but
yeah.
don't avoid it. Don't avoid the conversation. If you spent the last out of it, like say 10, 20-year career and you've been miserable for 10 of it, that's not the only reason to say, I got to do something else. Look back. Why? What is it about the last 10 years in that career that have made you that unhappy? What is it about the last 5 years in the relationship that has made you unhappy? And that might actually shed some light that it's not as simple as the fact that just you're unhappy, you need to jump ship.
Well,
Because if you don't assess that, if you don't look at what has made you unhappy, what are the things that make me unhappy other than the fact I'm doing the same thing? Because it's just I'm doing the same thing, I'm in a rut.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, the next relationship, next job,
It's gonna be the same thing.
fucking you're gonna be in a rut again. It
Yep.
happens. The same old
Same.
is not gonna be exciting all the time.
So you obviously spend a lot of
Absolutely.
Pass that bottle over.
But I do think, so you talk about we spend most of our waking hours at work. That's true. But I think, if we're unhappy at work, I think it's easier to make a change at work or make a change in your career than it is a relationship, especially if you're married. Like you don't want to sit there and, you marry someone and all of a sudden 3 years later you're in a rut where things are turning bad in your relationship. So you just divorce, and then 2 years later you get married again and you're getting divorced like every 3 years. Like that's not healthy.
What's easier? The job or the
It's
relationship?
It's easier to change jobs than it is to change relationships. even though you spend more hours.
That's
I
on the
think
bird.
they're both tough.
Yeah, they're both tough.
So,
It's hard.
The
The
way
relationship doesn't pay the bills.
yeah, the way it's explained to me,
But if you have a relationship with someone who truly supports you, that means a hell of a lot more, I think, than just
You're
whether or not
right.
you're able to.
You're
to
right.
pay
It
the
does
bills.
mean more, but it doesn't mean it's easier.
No, I'm not saying, because
Yeah, I thought that was your direct. It's easier too.
it's easier to make a change in your career, is what I'm
I
saying.
don't think it's
sure.
easier.
I mean, they're both difficult, right?
Both difficult,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
They're both
obviously if you're in a
difficult.
marriage, if you
100%.
have kids, all that stuff is difficult.
Go ahead, Spencer.
So when I was talking about the yellow flags and the red flags a little earlier,
I like that, by the way.
All right, thank you.
It's a t-shirt.
But if you the way it was explained to me was if you live with somebody and you open the garage door and you see their car there,
Oh yeah.
are you happy to see their car there, or is it, hey, their car is there and that gives you anxiety or a feeling of shit, I wish their car wasn't there?
Yeah.
And
That's
once you start to
Red
have
flag.
that's but a lot of people just kind of go into the house and things like that. But if you get that sense more than once in a while, but that's the sense you get every time you come home, your home should be your sanctuary. And if it's not your sanctuary, and I know we're kind of going a little bit off base, but
No, that's not.
No,
That's related.
right. So
This is a broad topic.
Well, I think that goes into the whole what I was saying, the hours, right? So
I agree.
You go out and spend your day like that. You come home and you want that to be a happy.
you want that to be happy, a safe place.
all
and-
things considered,
Right.
you're going to have struggles at home, but again, through those ups and downs. To your point,
Or-
are you happy to?
or
get
if the
back to
highlight
house?
of your day of work is what's for lunch, or if it's
Been there, I've
hey,
been
yeah.
there.
it's
Yeah,
Monday,
we've all been there.
it's Monday and you're looking for the weekend. The answers are there, and most people are smart enough to know the answers. It is making changes is very difficult, and the unknown is very scary and things like that. But if you're getting those types of feelings, then you should do
It's-
kind of what you said, the 180.
It's time to jump ship.
It's time to jump.
Yeah,
It's time to jump.
It's time to. Yeah.
I
If you-
still
if
think
you've
you need to put the
exhausted all
legwork
other
in
options.
and realize why. Like, don't glance.
I
that over.
disagree. I disagree.
I think that again. I think that
disagree
if it's
100%.
just that you're unhappy, you'll be unhappy again.
Well,
I think you really need to, if you're going to learn from that, and it might get to that. I'll put this up on the screen there. Doug Ruffalo said the willingness to go to a marriage counselor to talk things through save my marriage. Digging your heels in is a bad idea. I'm looking at that comment. Thank you, Doug.
You wanted the
Yeah.
water.
I'm looking at it as that if you're just pulling up and you don't do something about it, you don't start at least reflecting
Oh,
on
I'm not saying
why
not to put
I
the
know.
effort in.
I
Yeah.
don't think you.
But I want to make sure that's said is that if you just jump ship because you're unhappy every time you come home, like you're just going through the motions. That is the problem. A lot of times it's not only like it could be the other party, it could be the job, it could be the person that you're with, it could be that car, whatever it might, the home, whatever it is. Again, but what would you do differently going forward with that person? What would you do differently? Because if you're just going to live your life, you pull in to the next house, the next car that's in your garage, and it's just you and you're just, I'm unhappy. You got to have some sort of personal lessons there and realize that I feel like you have to do everything you can. You have to communicate. You have to do that because if your next relationship, your next job is the same thing, it's always going to be you feel unappreciated. Something's not right.
So Ryan disagrees, which I like when there's disagreements.
Absolutely.
On this. So
I just want to make that known that you really need to
I
have
think that's-
a personal assessment.
I think it's great if you do have the time to reflect while within that situation.
You have the time
to get
First of all, you
clarity.
have the time.
I think that's great. I think there are times where it's not needed. Sometimes you just gotta fucking jump. You just gotta go. You have to.
But I think,
and
sorry.
no, you're fine. No, you're fine. And I'll let you add in. But the reason why I think if over time, whether it be a career or a personal relationship or hell, even a family, relationship,
I know.
if something is so toxic, it's
Yes.
so draining, so to where it is bad for your mental health, your physical health, it is bad for whatever that may be.
Yes.
Sometimes you don't need that explanation. Sometimes you just gotta fucking go.
I think that is your explanation. But if you
It
realize
is. But
you get upset and you
but
jump ship.
Let's say like, and this is just an example, right? This is of many, but let's say like mental abuse at home.
Mm-hmm.
That's not necessarily always very apparent,
It's a very good point.
but it fucking happens.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I have, but I do know people that have gone through it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sick. But only they can make that decision for themselves. You can tell somebody all day long until you're blue in the face. It's not until they realize it. And when that happens, you just gotta make a decision.
I agree with there is a breaking point. I guess my point was, I know my point was that there's got to be a little bit of assessment there. There's got to be a point where
Sure.
you
Eventually,
jumping ship. There's also I know of plenty of people, and I'll keep this a little bit away from people that just are consistently single and they want to be in a relationship, but when it comes down to it, they want to be actually single. They want to be able to do whatever they want. It's more on the work environment. Like sales positions are one that I would say, Spencer, you're in that industry. We're all kind of in that industry, but I mean, I remember managing salespeople that had this 1.5, 2 years in on the resume, 1.5, 2 years on the resume, 1.5, 2 years on the resume. And you actually talk to them. You're like, yeah, no, this is the place for me. And then 1.5, 2 years later, they're like, I'm looking for the next opportunity. That is a personal, in my opinion, toxic thing, because it's doing the work for the long run. I agree with what you're saying, Ryan, but that I guess is my point. That's if there isn't anything where if you finally get to that point, that's where you carry those scars and you're really calloused, so that the next relationship, personal, family, like you're talking about, personal, especially like romantic.
Yeah.
The hope for me is that you and everyone else, like that you
don't make the same mistakes twice and things like that.
It's that you realize what it was. It's not, people blame themselves, people blame the other people. And sometimes what I'm trying to say when I say that it's okay to struggle is that sometimes when you struggle, when I first went into the Tinder Box at Easton, right? I started becoming a regular. I was going through marital problems. And I met people of different ages, right? Yep. And I met people that were happily married. And again, in that context, met people that were happily married. And I met people that were divorced. I met people that were single, all different ages. I'm talking at the time I was in my late 20s. And now I'm in my early 40s.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. But when I looked at that and I looked at these people, it's about having those conversations. That is, looking back, that was my way of almost qualifying my feelings but I opened it up to different people that had more experience than me. Not saying that
different
they were right.
Experiences.
Just time-wise.
Yeah, no,
you're right. Different and more, in my opinion.
Right.
So I knew people that they went through their shit. Doug brought it up. That was not part of that at the time, but there were plenty of those situations where it's like, yeah, no, I was done. But you're so, like, you seem so happy. Like, I met your wife. Like, you're so happy. Yeah. 5 years ago,
yeah,
we were living in different places. We were doing that stuff.
You find that couple that's
and all of a sudden now they've gone through it, right? So there's that effort there, and I think that, again, that it's okay to struggle type thing. Yeah. But then I also met these people that they struggled, they gave it everything they could, and now they're happier because they did that. Sure. There's no regret, and also they are in a new relationship. Same thing with jobs.
Absolutely.
They struggled with it. And they jump ship. They're still unhappy at work. No matter who their employer is, they could be self-employed. They're still unhappy because all you do is, it's easy to project the blame on everyone else. I'm not saying that you're at fault, but as soon as you put yourself in your mind as part of that relationship and why it went that way, it's not always going to be your fault, but that's a good thing to learn. To your point, when you're talking about someone that's in a family, environment, that you tried, and the other party did not reciprocate, and all they did was give a negative aspect to your life, in fact, beat you down, that's, jump ship. And now going forward, it's going to be tough to open up again.
Absolutely.
But when you do, it will take that mental effort and stamina to really put yourself out there for a new employer, a new significant other, a new, whatever the journey is. I feel like there's something that you have to take identity, and you have to take responsibility for your part.
That's right.
Not saying that you caused it, but
sometimes you could still be at fault.
Yeah, but if you just blame yourself because you're unhappy, I'm just saying it's a truly tough thing to do, in my opinion, to come out of a struggle, or when you're in the struggle, to realize that you were part of that situation, because you put all of the actions that are happening when you are beat down or something surprised you, or even if you were the one that caused it, it's easy to put the blame or the responsibility on other parties that are involved. And I think the biggest thing and the toughest thing is to pull yourself out and look at it as like, oh shit, there's me.
Yeah. That was my part of the situation. So let's bring it back to, it's okay to struggle. So Steve, Nate, why did you guys pick this topic? What were you trying to kind of get out of it? Were you trying to talk about when you're in the struggle, or were you talking about how to get out of it? Or are you just saying that, hey, when you're in it, just kind of sit in it a little bit, stuff like that?
I had two guys on here. Nate, is here, and I love his perspective on a lot of things here. But when I picked this topic, it was having Ryan on, and then, Spencer, you reached out to me like, hey, when's the next time I can be on the podcast? Do you have anyone on this week? And I said, I got Ryan on, but I'd love to have you on as well.
Okay.
And when it comes down to it, picking a topic, I look at the guests, and I know you guys well enough that in different aspects of your life, you've had great successes, you've had huge hurdles, and you've really had some reset buttons hit. And I know everyone does, but I know you both, I consider you guys both close friends and almost family, and you guys are always welcome at my house. And I had you guys on, and I'm looking at, I've got a list of things that I look at of potential topics. And sometimes I got to be honest, this wasn't, I'll Google things, and I'm like, all right, who do I have on? And I just start just searching in what fits. This one came up, and it wasn't framed like it's okay to struggle, but it was about struggle.
Yeah.
And I had you guys on, and I know Spencer, relationship and career wise, you've had great successes and you've had great setbacks. Ryan, same thing.
Absolutely.
Personal life and from the career side of it, you've had amazing successes and you've had tremendous setbacks. And when I looked at both of you right now, from what I know from our relationship, that right now you guys have come from a struggle and you are currently succeeding on the other side of it, from my vantage point.
No, you're right.
So you asked that question. That's why, because I know a lot of people that are out there that are just smooth sailing and they're going to hit a struggle point. And I also know a lot of people that listen to this podcast.
That's right.
That can relate to from their past. And I also know that there are some people out there, maybe just one person out there.
That's right.
That is currently struggling with their career, struggling with their relationship, struggling with their health, whatever it might be. And that's why I picked this topic, because having you two on, you guys aren't nationally known. You're not this huge, draw as far as an audience, but it's someone that listening to you guys talk about something like this, you can relate. And right now in your current situation, I'm not saying everything is 100% smooth and easy, but you guys are really digging your heels in on the other side of some struggles.
That's right.
Whether it be months, years, whatever. And you're prepared for the next one. And that's what it's all about, is that you guys, when you go into your next struggle, you have learned. That's what I'm harping on here.
That's
right.
That
you have to embrace it.
That's right. The key is to be ready for the next one.
And enjoy when you're not.
No, you're right. Enjoy when you're not, but just know how to mentally prepare yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're going to face struggles, whether it be at work or at home or both, or whatever the case may be. Something else is going to happen. Just know how to grow from the last time.
Get up when you get
just
knocked
grow
out.
from the last time.
Yeah.
Because if you fall back to old habits and old ways and you don't grow as an individual, it's okay to struggle. It's okay to be in that moment. Know how to handle it. Know how to get yourself up and dust it off. Because the sooner you're able to do that, and the more graceful you're able to do that, sometimes shit gets messy. You know what I mean? You got to know how to handle yourself and just learn.
So couple things, you had mentioned a smooth seas and things like that.
Mhm.
And obviously, the saying is smooth seas don't make a skilled sailor.
Correct.
So I don't think any of us is wanting to struggle. I don't think any of our friends or family wants to see any of us struggle. But when you are struggling, it does prove to yourself, not to others, because I'm sure all of us care what other people think, but it's really, can you prove it to yourself?
Yes.
That when you get knocked down, can you get back up? But when you're in the situation that you're struggling, do you have the internal confidence that you might not have known that you have, whether it's career, relationship wise, to get out of that situation? Now, you had talked about, hey, do I jump ship? Do I rip the Band-Aid off? Stuff like that.
You don't always have to jump ship. Sometimes
Sure.
it's,
Sometimes.
patch what you got.
Yeah. Sometimes it's also, hey, do you go through the grieving process, whether it's the job or the relationship, while you're in it,
Right.
and you're grieving, you've gone through all right, I want to give the person or the job enough rope. I want to give it every opportunity to succeed while you're in it, so that when you finally make that decision, hey, I'm out, whatever that means, that you've already gone through the grieving process while you're in it, so that when you get out of it, the time isn't, you're not wasting a couple of years, you're maybe wasting a couple of weeks, not wasting, but your process to getting to the next step is not as long as it could be.
That's right.
Nate?
Well, when it comes to the work aspect and struggling at work, because there are so many other opportunities out there, like work is one of those things that when it doesn't seem to be going very well, like it may just be, and it may just be a you thing. Like you may be the issue and there may be something you need to work on. But like with work, you can actually go to managers or higher ups and like you can say what's going on. Like, if things aren't going well at work, you can reach out to someone that you report to and say why things aren't going well. So that way they know, and maybe there could be a little bit of a change. But when you work wise, there's only so much you can do. And I think sometimes it depends on how big the company you work for is. Like if you work for a small business, there's not a whole lot of parts there. So that other side that you may be struggling with may be more open to making some changes in order to.
I'd be curious if you worked for a smaller company.
How so?
I mean, do cigar shops count?
Cigar shops count, and I think you got more say, but you're part of a corporation, right?
I am.
So you're a cog in.
I am a very, very small.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're.
But a nice cog.
Thank you. I mean, I work for a Fortune 200 company that has over 10,000 employees. If I decide to jump ship, like the corporate's not going to
Cripple them.
No.
You're going to cripple them.
I would like to.
No
think
one's got power anymore.
I would like to think so.
It's over.
But
The
honestly,
lights
that's
are out.
not.
What the fuck?
But honestly, that's not the case. But there's only so much that can be done to make that work situation better. There's only so much that other party can do in order to try and make your situation better before it's just up to you to make your situation better.
Yeah.
And that's where kind of that
Right.
jump and ship thing comes up, because you sit there and realize, like Steve said, you spend so many hours of your life at work. At some point, you just seek out a better opportunity. On the other side, when it comes to relationships, even though you may not spend as much time at home as you do at work, the weight and value of that relationship is so much more vital, because that is a primary issue that can greatly impact every other area of your life, both positively and negatively.
That's right.
That if things aren't going well in your relationship, you need to communicate with that other party that things aren't going well. And that other party has to work with you as well. Like Doug talked about going to counseling. Like that's a huge step for anyone to bring up. And then also for that other person to accept things aren't going well. Maybe we do need to go to counseling.
So,
but the long-term benefits can be so great that it's worth both parties putting in the effort. Now, there are some relationships out there where things just get so bad and so toxic.
No come back from
that. The other party either won't budge or they're like, you
trust is broken, whatever the case.
That's
exactly
no coming back from.
Yeah, and that's one of those, like, that's the point. Like when there's absolutely nothing that can be done to salvage that relationship, that's when you possibly jump ship.
So I don't
it's
think
a last resort.
I don't think the word. I think we're I don't think the word jump ship is the right phrasing.
No,
I just think
but I
it's
know-
changing your circumstances. How about that? Yeah, jumping ship means like, hey, you're bailing on a situation that is
like
unsalvageable.
if you're having struggles in a relationship, kind of
you're right.
like what Steve talked about when he was first going to Tinder Box and he was dealing with marital issues. Like he was talking to other people, and sometimes you need to find that couple that's been together for 30, 40, 50 years, because I guarantee you find a couple that's been together for that long, it has not been smooth sailing the entire time.
They got very different advice.
And they do, but what that is also is a success story, because I guarantee you those couples have gone through some shit, but they've worked it out to where they are still together and they're still happy in that relationship. There's something that can be learned from that, but it also requires your other party to be on board with making those changes.
Well, for every success story also in that type of scenario, there are plenty that don't work out after that.
Or they're just together after 30, 40 years and they're not happy.
So it's the addressing that. That's the whole thing, is that you actually made that step.
That's right.
You address the problem.
Just
You address that there is a problem.
That's right.
You've done that. And that's where the true, I think, change, no matter what the outcome is. And again, going back to my scenario, when I was talking about first going in there and talking to these now new friends at that time, was I learned that people succeeded from it, and I learned people that didn't. And the most miserable people, like you kind of highlighted there, Spencer,
Alluded to.
the ones that just rolled with it. And whatever the time period is, 20, 30, whatever years later, it is what it is. Miserable.
And that's how they live their life.
That's how they live their life. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's the same thing with career. It's like if you're 50, 60 years old and you're unhappy with your job, it's like, well, do you start over, or can you transfer that over? What you learned, can you apply that to a new job? Same thing with a relationship. Are you actually bringing something to that?
So let me ask you a question, Stephen. If it's too personal, obviously, please
More whiskey.
please answer it in great detail and use people's names and everything like that.
Well, one time Spencer said this.
So yeah, so are you trying to do things differently in your current relationship that you are? Hey, I learned from past that I'm trying to do different.
She listens to this.
Oh well, we can edit this out. Or is it just, hey,
And
Pass that bottle.
AEP just shut down the.
there's a lot of wind.
I'll call someone, Steve.
What's the
actual question is, hey, you have mentioned a few times that, hey, you want to reflect on, hey, is there things that I might have been the issue, or things I could have done differently? It's not always the other person's fault. Sometimes you got to take your own responsibility towards actions. So hey, there are things in that relationship that I know that if I would have done X, or if we would have done X. So you taking those lessons from past experiences to your most current one. If that's too personal.
No, it's not. And I'm going to try to I know Kristen listens to this, and I really appreciate
She
that
just keeps
support.
her laptop on and she goes someplace else.
I mean, she's already in sleep, or she's already asleep, but she's going to listen later. I'm not necessarily going to look for brownie points here. In our time together so far, she's coming out of something as well. I've had different reset buttons, and so to the point of like addressing things in your career, addressing things in your personal life, addressing things in your relationship, the one true strength that I think that her and I have at this point, and it's still newer, right? I mean, it's less than a year, but we've already had some issues where it's like, hey, this bothered me. It's talking about it. It's truly addressing it.
Keeping communication open.
Open lines of communication.
That's right.
Things make you unhappy, you say something. And then it's a matter of, that it's two parties. So yes, going into it, I finally gotten to the point where in my life, again, at my age, I know I'm not going to be perfect. I'm still me, but I am me now. And I am open to having someone else, as I have been in the past, where I give my best. And I think that life experiences on both sides have been open enough that we've had that communication. And even in the months that we've been together, because it has not been a year, that we've had conversations that a lot of newer relationships don't have. You skate by it. And they haven't always already been pleasant, but it's the fact that we address them. And right now we've had that.
Don't let them fester. Don't let
it fester. You actually, and if you even let it fester for a couple of days, all of a sudden it's already amped up. And you have to be able to be open about that communication.
Well, it's kind of like the analogy you've talked about in the past about if there's something wrong with your car that needs addressed, like you take care of the little maintenance issues now, because if you don't address those, it becomes a much more labor intensive and expensive process later. It's much easier to deal with the small stuff on a day-to-day basis than to just let that boil over and become
let's take the other route of that. Let's say you don't address the small stuff, and now you got some big stuff.
You gotta do what Doug did, and you have to possibly really just put it on the front burner.
See
you
if
really
it's,
have
see if
to
you can
just
get
turn
past
up
it
the
or
heat. You really do. I mean, it's like you've let this the whole back burner thing. Like, hey, I'm not gonna address it right now.
Don't want to upset them.
Yeah, we're just gonna go with it, and then shit's going really south. Well, you can, as we said, we don't want to say it, but like you can just jump ship. But you didn't address anything. You bailed because you never really addressed what was wrong.
Tried to make it work.
You didn't. Well, yeah, you didn't try to make it work, but you didn't actually. We got to go in some closing remarks here soon, but I'll frame it with this: is that I really love the metaphor of a first interview or a first date.
Yeah.
You go into it and you say, even if you're bringing issues in from your last job, your last relationship, but if you want something, if you're open to something new, you're honest with yourself with a little or a lot of putting what you think the best foot forward, your best impression, first impression.
Best
you want to impress.
Absolutely.
I would say that, to your point, your question, Spencer, is that from the very beginning with my current relationship, is that I was more honest with myself in the dialogue that I had with another person in the relationship. If I was going into a job, I know what I want out of it.
Guys, we're on the same page.
As of now.
Yeah.
5 years from now, I might be wanting something different. But as of now, I'm honest with myself. I didn't put a fake face on. I did not necessarily try to impress. I tried to impress with myself. There was no pressure this time.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Because you got it worked out.
Well, in the relationship side of it, that's the difference between the job side, is because there's an income. Like, you need to have bills paid.
Right.
But I had my, if you will, let's get really metaphorical. I had my personal and emotional bills already paid by myself. I went through my struggle. I was on the other side of it, And at that moment, I wanted to date. I was putting effort into it, but I wasn't just dating to date. I wasn't trying to be in a relationship just to be in a relationship. I knew for the first time in a long time that who I was is who I am, but I'm open to have someone else be a part of it. It's as if I could be self-employed, but also go into business with someone else and say, we can succeed better together. And I didn't go into that job interview. I didn't go into this conversation with someone that I am just going to be who I think I should be, who I think that people would like. I'm not going into a first job interview. I'm like, you need to hire me. I'm not, you need to date me. I went into it as myself because I gave myself, once again, I was single for the longest time since probably high school or college. And it was a big picture, very short term. It's okay to struggle. In the struggle, it felt like forever.
Yeah.
I blew up your phone, Spencer. Nate leaned on you really hard. I was not who I am today. But at the same time, I still am. You know what I mean? I found myself with a more finite and a more confident self. And that is where I say, when I've been harping on this during this part 2, is that you really have to have that assessment. Learn who you are. Because if all you do is try to be who you think will get you hired or get you that next relationship, or who you think you need to be, that's forecasting for a future that you don't even know if you fit in,
because it's not yourself, and you have to play on that false persona for a while,
and it's going to fade.
That's right.
Yeah. And that was the whole thing, is if, like, when we talk about like bail ship, it's like, I'm not happy with this, so I'm going to leave. It's like, well, that's the other side of it, is that you think you know who you should be, but if you're going to be that person and it failed in a relationship and it's on you, it's going to fail again. Yep. You go to another job, it's going to fail again, because you feel like you're entitled or you need to be appreciated to this point. Yet there are some positive aspects, but if you know why, or if you feel as though you reflected on it and you've learned who you were then, who you are now, if you don't need that job, if someone is independently wealthy but still wants to work, if you're those retired people, they've got the retirement already. They're bored. They want to have the social interaction. They want to be out there.
That's right.
That's when they truly have now satisfied all of their wants.
That's right.
That's the same thing with relationships. And I'm not saying that I'm 100% there, but I will say, going into this current relationship, I have learned a lot from my past relationships. I've learned a lot from my past jobs. Even in my current job, I've learned from the last 9.5 years. And now I'm looking forward to the future, and where do I want to be, and what does it take to get there on my part, and what can I do to really satisfy myself, but also satisfy myself in the sense that there are other people in this world, and there's other aspects of my life. It's not just, I want this, I want that, I want more, I want that. That's fine if you're driven to that point. Yeah. But you have to realize that wanting is one thing, and knowing what actually makes you happy and who you are at that moment, that's truly, I feel like that's when you can open yourself up to new relationships, true success in the job. And a lot of that does come back to communication, because I feel like that is something that you really do need to. We always talk about balance on this podcast, but sometimes it truly is that it's not just about balance. It's about respect for the different ratios of what makes you happy, and finding an occupation, finding another person that you can do all these things with, and also listening to what hopefully they're in a similar mindset of, they are confident in what makes them happy. An employer, if you're working for someone, clients, what makes them happy. It's an everyone wins type of mentality. It's not that woe is me, I'm not appreciated, my grass isn't green enough, and I've been out there watering, and it's like, well, maybe you're overwatering it. Maybe you're using the wrong water. Maybe it's truly learning from your past
Mm-hmm.
so that the present hopefully will build to a better future.
I like it.
That wasn't even my closing remarks. But
Should
it
be.
kinda was,
Jesus
man.
Christ. Jesus.
Yeah, Spencer, go ahead.
No, I'm starting off. Nate, you want to start with your closing remarks?
Yeah,
You know what? Go ahead.
I'm
You
right.
got it, buddy.
Yeah, I blacked out.
That's how you debate.
So topic, it's okay to struggle. So 100% it's okay to struggle. 100% it's okay to be in it. I really liked what I said earlier about kind of embrace the suck, embrace the struggle while you're in it. But you know, I really like kind of Ryan's point of view. All right, how long do we want to deal with this? So I think my goal is to have the struggle be as, you know, if it's painful, that's okay. Be as painful as it wants it to be as hard as it has to be,
Right.
but do not let it consume you, and to try to everyone's got their own time limits on things, but to not let it consume your life for longer than it has to be. And that might be coming out of it too soon, but in general, try not to have the struggle overwhelm every aspect of your life. I would like to thank Ryan and Royale for the wonderful cigars and the fantastic bourbon. That's truly, you know, once in a lifetime experience. So truly, truly thank you. Next time I'm on the pod, I was telling Nate earlier, I'll be legal. Next time is 21. So this is 20. Next time will be 21. And I expect another $300 bottle.
You're not allowed to drink
I expect another $300 bottle on the next one. That's all I'm saying.
when you come on.
When
That
I
you
come
bring
on.
it. Yeah, that's great, man.
So this is my 20th appearance. So next time will be my 21st appearance on the
Oh, okay.
podcast.
With what you said, though, I want to say there's a difference between embracing the suck
Yeah.
and becoming the suck. No, I know it sounds
Yeah, no,
funny,
no,
but
no, that's good.
If you dwell on it, you are the suck.
I agree. Dwell on it for whatever the appropriate amount of time is. Everyone has different times.
Embrace it, and it's okay to struggle.
But you gotta move on at some point for your own sanity, and life is short. And you're right. You know, you were single for I don't know, a year, but in the grand scheme of thing, that's nothing. But while you're in it, it could seem like forever. But
And if it was longer, I felt like I was getting to that point where I could have been there.
yeah, but you know, it's the right time for everybody when you get out of the struggle. So it is okay, but you gotta get a way out of it.
Ryan?
I mean, you guys pretty much covered everything. I mean, it's
Did
such a broad. I mean, man, this is such a broad topic, right? It's okay to struggle. It's like everything that you guys are talking about and everything that you're touching base on for your final remarks. It's you know, it's all everything that we talked about already. It all makes sense, right? Like it's good to struggle sometimes. I mean, it's okay. Like it gets you to your next point. It gets you to that you know, because it's not forever. You know, it's evolution. You just
Make you
better.
stronger.
It makes you stronger. It's okay to do it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just how do you get to the next point, and what do you do to stay true to yourself to that way when you're in the next situation, whether it be a relationship or a job, you're going to do it to the best of your ability. I mean, you're absolutely right. And to everybody that, you know, that was listening in tonight, that if maybe this could help one person, it was worth it. And this was a great conversation to have. And I'm you know, it was a privilege to crack that bottle with you guys. It was great to smoke those cigars with you. And, you know, this was a lot of fun. I appreciate just being on here. This was a great conversation to have. Appreciate you guys very much.
Nate? Thank you, Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Ryan.
Yeah.
Struggle is an okay place to visit. It's not a place to live.
Yeah, I like that.
It's not a place you want to stay at long term. Going through struggle can be a valuable thing because it teaches you. It makes it easier to recognize problems before they actually become problems. You know, when you go through an experience that's a struggle, you can look back and analyze what got you to that point. You know, it may have been just 2 steps that got you to that point. It may have been 20 steps that got you to that point. But it's important to recognize what got you there. So that way, the next time that starts to happen, you can actually analyze and figure out that you're going down the wrong path sooner. So that way, hopefully you don't get to the point where things are really bad. But you wouldn't have been able to recognize that had you not struggled or gone through something similar to that before. So you're able to correct the issue before it becomes unfixable. But you only
put the effort in.
But I think in a lot of cases, you only realize that through experience. Because like you can read a book on how to fly a plane. That doesn't make you a pilot. That doesn't mean you can go behind the wheel of a 747 and suddenly fly from New York to Heathrow. Like, no, just because you read a book doesn't mean you can fly a plane.
Online learning is a big thing right now.
Metaverse.
Thank you, Ryan.
Metaverse. I might get a metaverse pilot's license. You never know.
There are
Facebook would appreciate that.
There are things you can learn online. Yes, you can learn mathematics online. You're not necessarily going to learn how to fly a plane until you actually get in the cockpit and fly the plane
and do it.
You have to actually do it. Yeah. So the importance of struggle is the experience, because that's what is going to provide long-term benefits to being able to recognize those problems before they become a problem.
Yeah,
I like it.
Love the conversation.
All right. Well, that's all.
Did
you want to? Do you have? All right. Steve's going to say something. Go ahead, Steve.
No, I already said it. I loved your guys' conversation. I love the closing remarks. I really think that when it comes down to the topic, to be brief, it is truly okay to struggle as long as you take something from it. Allow yourself to really learn from things that happen to you, from your own actions, because there's a lot of times that the struggle is actually caused by something that you did wrong. And whether you learn that you don't want to work for that type of person, you don't want to be with that type of person, I will say I think that the biggest lesson learned is that if it happened to be the case, that with that assessment, in whatever the situation is, you don't want to be that type of person. As soon as you know the type of person that you want to be, whether it was through failures or your own successes and outside things happen to you, that's that level of confidence, whether it be very timid, but as soon as you have this confident self-worth, that's truly where, when you bring in another party, no matter what it is,
people are attracted to that new.
That's right.
They are.
Yeah.
That's right.
You attract who you portray.
You're also who you want to be, not for other people. You mentioned Spencer at some point. That was another topic I was looking at. Is like, do you care what other people think? Absolutely, people do.
Right.
But it has to start again within you. I mean, again, it has to be this type of thing where through the struggle, you learned who you are. That's the true success. Who you are, who you want to be, and not for the other people, not the people that hurt you, not the employer that hurt you, not the person, like, and we didn't talk about health a lot tonight, but it's like, when you look in the mirror, I don't want to be that person. All right. Well, now you know that. This is the drive going forward. It's okay to struggle, because when you do that, and once you get that teetering point on the struggle, now you're going back into, like, you in the valley, and now you're starting to dig yourself out and you're going up to the peak. You got to keep digging. You got to keep doing that. But also you got to realize who you were and what got you down in that valley. It is a true self-realization that this is something that will be better for you and everyone around you. So if you care about what other people think, that's that second part. You'll be better for them. And then all of a sudden that it's a constant cyclical thing.
Good word.
Thanks. that you guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation tonight. And I appreciate Ryan again bringing these cigars, the bottle of whiskey. It's been fantastic. I hope you guys listen to part 1. Tinder Box at Easton, thank you very much for the constant support. And also Altadis USA. This Trinidad Espiritu number 2 actually went better with the Kentucky Owl that I thought it would. Not better than the first cigar.
I was going to say,
I
first cigar is
agree.
better.
I was thinking the same thing.
It's better than I thought it was going to be.
Yes.
I think the first cigar went better with the bottle.
Agreed.
And I thought that going into it. But also Altadis USA, Josh Bentley and everyone else out there, BS Cigar Company, patreon.com/bourbonbs podcast. Your continued support has been tremendous, helping us do this. And Venmo at bourbonbs. And if you guys want some swag, it's super easy. Buyjack.com/bourbonbs. And you can get the podcast shirt, the shirt that Spencer makes. You make it look so good.
It's a small. It's crazy.
So he's wearing a medium.
Extra medium.
The model is 6'2" and 210 pounds, and he's wearing a medium.
It's soaking wet.
Soaking wet. But guys, thank you very much. And Ryan, thank you for being here. I love it. You're always welcome. Spencer, you're always welcome.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you
us.
guys for the support.
Cheers.
Community is amazing. Cheers, Nate.
Cheers, Nate Dog. So we typically